what do we call you, son? Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
You can call me Mr. G.
Okay, thank you, Mr. G. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a call to order for the Public Assets and Native Communities Committee. My name is Deborah Juarez, and I'm the chair. Today is December 7th, and the time is 2:04. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Herbold.
Here.
Mosqueda.
Present.
Sawant. Councilmember Sawant. Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Strauss.
Present, not voting.
Chair Juarez.
Here.
Councilmember Sawant. 5 present.
Thank you. So we will move to the next part of our agenda. That is approval of the agenda. If there's no objection, the agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the agenda is adopted. I will now go into the chair's report. And today is our last committee meeting for 2021. And there are 3 items on today's agenda. Item number 1, as you all know, is the legislation that would renew the operations and management agreement between the City of Seattle and the Woodland Park Zoo. The current 20-year contract remains active until February 2022. So for this year, both parties, the Woodland Park Zoo and the city, have negotiated an agreement to renew and update policies related to the zoo operations, services, and especially to the care of the zoo animals. The executive started this process by setting up meetings between electeds, lawyers, city attorney's office of both the City Parks Department and the Woodland Park Zoo to establish priorities. By May of 2021, my office received a preliminary high-level briefing on the goals, the scope of public benefits, and the draft terms sheet by the Woodland Park Zoo. And of course, we've been sharing these with our colleagues and constituents. Thereafter, the executive transmitted the agreed upon proposal between Seattle Parks and Rec and the zoo in the form of Council Bill 120164 on August 3rd. As soon as this was transmitted, our office began reviewing the provisions, as it is our responsibility to comb through and understand its impact on zoo animals operation, what this zoo means to our constituents, to our committees, and of course to the neighborhoods, and of course all of our city partners. The legislation was scheduled for a committee meeting on September 10th. We held a public hearing and briefing where we heard concerns and support from the public during public comment and the presenters. It was clear after the September discussion that we needed more time to consider some legal provisions, constituent concerns, and potential amendments. So we scheduled the committee vote after our fall budget process. Since then, we have had 3 months, or at least over 80 days, to engage with central staff, council members, including Councilmember Strauss, representing District 6, in which the Woodland Park Zoo resides, the zoo board members, community, and as I shared earlier, the city attorney's office. I established a November 30th deadline for proposed amendments because I knew that it was going to be complicated, and during budget, I knew that certain council members had to make time to meet with constituents and the Woodland Park Zoo and their leadership, as well as the city attorney's office. So I appreciate everyone sticking to this schedule. So the city and the zoo had a chance to review and offer feedback on what the new or the proposed or amendments to the proposed contract. What we have before us today is a draft proposal and 15 proposed amendments by council members on this committee. In addition to Councilmember Strauss, who serves as an alternate and represents, as I shared, District 6, we have a quorum. Councilmember Strauss cannot vote, but can speak to his amendments, which I will move as a courtesy on his behalf. Today, we will hear from our central staff to provide an introduction. Then I will invite the Woodland Park Zoo CEO, Dr. Alejandro Grajal, and the Superintendent of Parks, Jesus Aguirre, to provide opening remarks if they so choose. Following this, Brian Goodnight of Central Staff will provide an overview of the amendments before us today. After the general overview, Brian will walk us through the first amendment and provide his presentation, and if we are ready to vote, I will administer that process. We will do this for each amendment one by one in the order as listed on the agenda. Of course, conflicting amendments will be considered together. I think the last three are actually the last five are, but we'll get to that in a moment. We had 3 amendments updated with new revisions that you should have with you today, and Brian will include those in his report. I've had an opportunity to review again the 70-page proposed contract, the 4 exhibits, and of the 4 exhibits, exhibit number 3 is the July 2021 MOU, and exhibit number 4 has 2 appendices, A and B. One of them relates specifically to public benefits, which is key because we've really beefed up that section even more. Thank you, Woodland Park Zoo, and of course the insurance provision. And we will speak more to the substance of the legislation when we arrive at that agenda item following the amendments. Okay, so that's what we have for the zoo part. Agenda item 2, the second item is a resolution regarding the Recreation and Conservation Office grant application process for the Parks Department. We do this, I think, every year, and it's pretty straightforward, and we'll have more discussion on that when we get to agenda item number 2. And lastly, which I'm very happy and excited about, is agenda item number 3. The last item is a bill that will create the Indigenous Advisory Council, or the IAC. As a council, we have worked to support the formal creation of the Indigenous Advisory Council for almost 2 years. We looked at the federal model, the state model, and a few cities, and I'm very happy to say this will be the first time in the city's history in the legislative department we will have an actual Indigenous Advisory Committee to advise not only the legislative branch, but the executive branch and anyone else about Indigenous issues in the city of Seattle. So I'm very happy and thrilled to see this evolve the way it has, with community support, with tribal support, and of course support from our urban Indigenous organizations. And so I'm hoping that that gets passed today and we get these members seated, we roll up our sleeves and start the work. So with that, we will move to public comment, and at this time we will open the remote public comment period. And again, it remains the strong intent of the Seattle City Council to have public comment regularly included on meeting agendas. However, we do reserve the right to end or eliminate this public comment period at any point if we deem that this system is being abused or is unsuitable for allowing our meetings to be conducted efficiently and in a manner in which we are able to conduct our necessary business. I will moderate this general public comment period in the following manner. The public comment period for this meeting is up to 20 minutes. Nagin, how many speakers do we have signed up? Nagin or Jody? 16. Okay, so with 16 people signed up, I'm going to limit public comment to 1 minute. And I believe either our clerk Nagin or Jody will lead with public comment instructions. Was that you, Nagin? Okay, Nagin will. So that is, we have 16 people signed up, and so we have a full agenda. So we're going to go give each person 1 minute, and Nagin will go ahead and read the instructions, and then we'll begin. Nagin?
All right, so I'm going to call on 2 speakers at a time, and in the order, 1 moment, I'm just going to pause. All right.
Where is it?
My apologies for that. All right, so I'm going to call on 2 speakers at a time and in the order in which registered on the online sign-up list. If you have not yet registered to speak but would like to, you can sign up before the end of this public comment period by going to the council's website at seattle.gov/council. The public comment link is also listed on today's committee agenda. Once a speaker's name is called, I will unmute the appropriate microphone, and an automatic prompt of "you have been unmuted" will be the speaker's cue that it is their turn to speak. The speaker must also touch *6 on their phone to unmute themselves after their name is called. Please You'll begin speaking by stating your name and the item that you are addressing on today's agenda. Speakers will hear a chime when 10 seconds are left of the allotted time. Once you hear the chime, we ask that you begin to wrap up your public comment. If speakers do not end their comments at the end of the allotted time, provided the speaker's microphone will be muted to allow us to call on the next speaker. Once you have completed your public comment, we ask that you please disconnect from the line, and if you plan to continue following this meeting, please do so via Seattle channel or the listening options listed on the agenda. And Councilmember Juarez, when you are ready, we can have you open the public comment period.
Now that I've learned how to use my computer. All right, so the public comment period is now open, and we will begin with the first two speakers on the list. Nagin, will you please call those first speakers?
All right, Robert Liddell. And followed by Chris Maycutt. Robert, are you on the line? Don't forget to press *6. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll come back to you, Robert. Chris Maycutt, are you on the line?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
My name is Rob Liddell, and I live and work in. Thank you for allowing me to address the committee today regarding Woodland Park Zoo. I'm a physician specializing in diagnostic radiology. I've been a consultant volunteer for the veterinary staff at the Woodland Park Zoo for more than 30 years, beginning when I was a radiology resident at the University of Washington. Over the years, I've had the privilege of providing various and sometimes complex diagnostic imaging exams in the care of over 100 animal patients at the zoo. During my many hours of work at the zoo, I've always admired the thoughtful and high quality of care given to the animals at the zoo. The zoo's animal care staff often work with medical practitioners from the Seattle community. These many medical volunteers from the UW, Seattle Children's, various hospitals and medical groups are consistently impressed by the expert and compassionate care provided by the professional veterinarian and keeper teams. And we therefore are happy to spend our time and efforts to further the cause of the high quality care. I've also sent an email to the council members and their chiefs of staff. If you wish.
Thank you, Robert, for calling in. Chris Maycutt, are you still on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Great. Hi, my name's Chris Maycutt. I'm calling from District 6. I'm giving personal and professional public comment on behalf of the Woodland Park Zoo. Professionally, my job is the small business advocate of the Finney-Greenwood corridor, and I work closely with the zoo. They're an organization that's fully dedicated to community building, small business support, and programming that serves a diverse population throughout Seattle and beyond. Personally, I've been going to the zoo for over 40 years. I remember the old nocturnal house and how mystifying and wonderful that was as a kid. I brought my kids there, and they are fully dedicated to exactly what the zoo is, habitat and species conservation, education, and like I said, community building. I think any and everything that the Seattle Council can do to support the Woodland Park Zoo is totally warranted. They're an incredible organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. The next two speakers are listed are Mark Jordan, followed by Eileen Fortgang. Mark, are you on the line?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. Hello, my name is Mark Jordan, and I'm speaking in support of the Woodland Park Zoo Operations and Management Agreement. I'm an associate professor of biology at Seattle University, and I'm also a resident of Beacon Hill in Seattle. Seattle University and the zoo collaborate on a project called the Seattle Urban Carnivore Project, which involves wildlife cameras throughout the Seattle metro area, and we've also co-developed the Carnivore Spotter website, which allows any community member to report urban carnivores they see in their yards or walking the dog or even on security cameras. And this project has been a significant benefit to a variety of audiences. For my students, they can build vital research skills It's also benefited the community because our volunteers gain firsthand research experiences managing our cameras, and any community member can share their wildlife sightings on carnivore spotter. Our research has contributed to research papers on urbanization, and then we also have a lot of information that we share with various audiences about coexisting with carnivores. And I just want to emphasize that while the zoo
Thank you for speaking. You can feel free to share the remainder of your public comment by sending an email to council@seattle.gov. Aline Fortgang is next, followed by CS. Aline, are you on the line? I think I heard you. Aline, can you hear me? Don't forget to press *6 on your end. Oh, there we go.
I did.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I'm Aline Fortgang, Seattle resident and co-founder of Friends of Woodland Park Zoo Elephants. I, along with thousands of others, have a lived experience why Clause 12.3 needs to be amended so there is no question of its legality. This amendment is not intended to interfere with the routine management or operation of the zoo. Council members Bagshaw and Harrell both favored sanctuary, but then voted no to move the ordinance that would have directed the zoo to send the elephants to sanctuary. They told me the reason for their no vote was because the city didn't have the authority to pass the ordinance. It needs to be well defined that the city has the authority to intervene on the behalf of an animal's welfare. Woodland Park Zoo shouldn't have a problem with this because it reassures the city and public that it puts the animals first. Please pass the amendment to 12.3 so you and future city council members have irrefutable authority to make policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Aline. Next, we have CS, followed by Manny Cowling, and my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your names. C, are you available?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm a District 6 resident, and my comments are on Agenda Item 1. As a city-owned facility, the City Council must have the ability to set policy on the use of animals in the zoo. As it stands, Section 12.3 removes rights from City Council. Section 12.3 should be reworded to allow City Council the option to intervene in the breeding, acquisition, sale, or other dispositions of any animals in the zoo. Funding should be lowered. Why fund such a frivolous item when there are people literally dying on our sidewalks? Breeding animals just so they can be put on display or sold or leased to other zoos does nothing to help diversify the gene pool or increase the population size for the animals in their native countries. Anyone who believes the zoo is helping endangered animals is delusional. The main thing zoos teach children is that it's okay for humans to dominate other animals as we see fit. City Council should be working to gradually abolish the zoo by stopping expansion, breeding, or acquisitions and repatriate animals to sanctuaries in their native range countries. Please retain City Council oversight of animals in the zoo and reduce zoo funding. Thank you.
Connected. Oh, it looks like it might be internet on my end. Okay. IT, can you please confirm that they were able to finish their public comment?
Affirmative.
Thank you. All right, next we have Manny Cowling. Are you on the line?
I am Manny Kowalin, Executive Director for Inspire Washington. We are the state's cultural advocacy organization. I'm testifying today on behalf of the industry we serve, representing nearly 18,000 cultural businesses statewide and nearly 80,000 employees when we aren't hobbled by the pandemic. I am also a former Seattle Parks employee, once the managing director for Langston Hughes Performing Art Institute. Inspire Washington urges the City Council to approve a management agreement that provides Woodland Park Zoo Foundation the needed resources and mandate to carry on their exceptional work of caring for Seattle's furriest citizens while engaging the broad public on educational activities around wildlife, habitats, sustainability, and science. The cultural sector is an ecosystem, and the Woodland Park Zoo is a lead player. When they are supported and their organization is strong, the tides ripple throughout our entire ecosystem, and other partners, both large and small cultural organizations, benefit. Due to the ever-changing safety mandates, they are a dependable programming for our citizens. Their primarily outdoor experience ensures that no matter what, there are still safe opportunities for people.
Thank you for your comments. You can feel free to send an email with the remainder of your comments to council@seattle.gov. Next, the next two speakers we have are Stacia Irons, followed by Shanna Kelly. Stacia, are you on the line?
I certainly am. Hi, this
Hi,
is
please
Stacia
go ahead.
Irons. I'm president of the board of directors at the Arc of King County, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Woodland Park Zoo Operations and Management Agreement. The Arc of King County has partnered with Woodland Park Zoo to develop training and programming to support the inclusion of visitors with intellectual and developmental disabilities in every part of the zoo experience, and to make sure that the zoo is truly accessible to all. Woodland Park Zoo has furthered their commitment to inclusion by offering inclusion training to staff and volunteers, welcoming families who have a family member with a disability with free tickets, and with the creation of the Inclusion Advisory Council. The ARC has watched as the zoo has become a leader in the inclusion of people with disabilities and an example to others of what inclusive programming should be. As a parent of a now young adult with disabilities, I know what this has meant to my daughter and to our family. We can go to the zoo and my daughter will be accepted for who she is. The Arc of King County supports the decision to renew this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Shauna Kelly. Are you on the line? Shana or Shauna Kelly? Don't forget to press *6 on your end. All right, we'll come back to you. Next, we have Natalie Wheatston, followed by Nick Tirones. Natalie, are you on the line?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I'm also walking on the street, so sorry for the noise. But,
no worries, please go ahead.
Calling to support the passing of Amendment 12.3. I don't really have a preconceived comment here, but just really would like the ability to influence decisions going on at the zoo for the fact that it's a public entity and receives my, support and funding through my tax dollars as a citizen. So would like to be able to have the council have some oversight over what's going on there. And yeah, just would like the passing of Amendment 12.3. And also wanted to say congrats on it being your last council meeting.
Thank you for your comments today. Next, we have Nick Tirones or Tirones. Are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. This is Nick Tirones, and I am the current preschool program director of Daybreak Star Preschool over at Daybreak Star Indian Cultural Center. And as my role and capacity as the early childhood educator, I have had the pleasure and wonderful experience to work with the zoo and in particular the early childhood programming, where we all know that early experiences are crucial to human development. And in this context is what's being brought up today. Children having positive hands-on early experiences lays a strong foundation of what we want to impart on them. And that's stewardship and conservation. And zoos like Woodland Park provide an opportunity for young children to develop relationships with the natural world. And in this process, we bring a strong disposition that all living things are connected and depend on each other for harmonious balance in our world. This is an important paradigm that is often reflected by Native and Indigenous people. And we tell stories, gain wisdom, and impart lessons inspired by our plant and animal relatives. I'll send along my other comments via email. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to go back to Shana Kelly. Are you on the line? Okay, the next two speakers are Marla Katz, followed by Katie Ferguson. Marla, are you available?
I am.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for holding this meeting. Please adopt Amendment 10. Clause 12.3 allows City Council to set policy as needed over the acquisition, treatment, and fate of the animals at the zoo. City Council, along with public input, must have the ability to intervene if there's a serious problem with animal welfare, like issues regarding breeding, acquisition, sale, or disposition of the captive animal. City Council is elected by the public, accountable to the public, not to this privately run zoo. Since we supply the zoo with a third of their budget, the City Council must have the ability to set policy over the welfare of the animals. Otherwise, the zoo should not take our public funds. Please adopt Amendment 11. Reduce the initial term of the agreement from 20 years to 10 years. Given how rapidly the world is funding priorities change, as well as how COVID has overtaken every aspect of our lives and has impacted both human and non-human animals alike. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Katie Ferguson. Are you on the line?
Hi, yes. My name is Katie Ferguson, representing Amara, a 100-year-old nonprofit child welfare organization established in Seattle and located in District 2, regarding the city's partnership with Woodland Park Zoo. Each year, the zoo provides tickets to Amara for the children in foster care with whom we work. And our emergency sanctuary program for many years offered a temporary safe haven for kids in foster care. Our incredible staff and volunteers organized outings to the zoo with the young children in our care, giving the kids a joyful and exciting respite from the trauma they were experiencing. Amara's Family Time program brings kids in foster care and their families together for important family visits, and it's been so wonderful for families to get away from stark offices and enjoy time at the zoo together on occasion. The staff is also incredibly committed to the community, listening to our needs. One example of this is the recent expansion of their community access program, which now includes foster and kinship families. Our families at Amara are now able to access tickets at annual passes at significantly discounted rates. We heavily rely on this partnership and greatly support this continued agreement between the city and the zoo. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Connor Inslee, followed by Irene Wall. Connor, are you on the line?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Connor Inslee. I'm the Associate Executive Director with the Outdoors for All Foundation, located in Magnuson Park in Northeast Seattle. Here to speak in support of Woodland Park Zoo, particularly the Community Access Program. Thanks to generous partnership with the zoo, our day camp participants of all ages are able to access the zoo as an activity. Our programs serve individuals with disabilities, a primarily underserved community, and without this partnership, we would simply not be able to afford market rate tickets for these activities. And we found that the zoo is an all-encompassing experience, including some highly educational programming that we've been able to access thanks to the partnership. And that is all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Irene Wall, are you available?
Good afternoon, council members. This is Irene Wall, District 6, neighbor of the zoo, former member of the zoo board, actually. I'd like to speak in behalf of council member Lisa Herbol's amendment number 6, making crystal clear that it is the council that has the final approval authority of any zoo long-range plan, and number 15 that ties price increases to some rational benchmark. I also think that Councilmember Peterson's amendment to reduce the initial term of the contract to 10 years makes good sense. But most importantly, Councilmember Strauss, who's worked hard with us to try and deal with our amendments, has kind of missed the boat. We need to make sure that any board representation, of which there should be at least 2, but really 4 members selected by the communities of Wallingford, Green Lake, Finney, and Fremont, not selected by the zoo board. Those representatives have to be related to their communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Stefan Moritz, followed by Shayna Kelly. Stefan, are you on the line?
Yes.
Great, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members. This is Stefan Moritz with Unite Here Local 8 and also the King County Labor Council. I'm here to express my support for amendment number 8 regarding labor peace agreements. I really appreciate the work that went into this by council members Juarez and Mosqueda. And I think it's a good policy choice you're making, and the labor community is in support of this amendment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to offer another opportunity for Shayna Kelly to speak. Are you on the line? Okay, we have Shayna Kelly and UC signed up, not present. Councilmember Juarez, we are done with public comment.
Thank you, Nagin. Okay, so Before I end with some of the folks that didn't get a chance to, if we missed you in public comment, please send the rest of your comments to our office. And I just want to note, back in August, we had a list of people that provided public comment. And I'm just going to rattle some of them off from August 26th, and then also the ones that we recently received in relationship to the new proposals that are in front of us today. So the original organizations that continue to support the passage of this proposed contract, or the Outdoors for All, Solid Ground, Family Works, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Mary's Place, El Centro de la Raza, Chief Seattle Club, Amaro 100, Treehouse, the Arc of King County, a group Launch, and the Finney Neighborhood Association, the Small Business Advocate Chris Mayukat. I apologize if I said that wrong. Now, there's some individual ones that had also sent in some information that were unable to be able to provide public comment today. And that was, we had heard from Mike Brown from the Senior Community Engagement Manager for Hilltop Children's Center and Education Institute. Sandra Madrid, Dr. Sandra Madrid, former Woodland Park Zoo board member and retired assistant dean to the University of Washington Law School. Dr. Rob Liddell, volunteer physician, consultant to the Animal Health Department at Woodland Park Zoo for over 30 years. Dick Burbaum, longtime Woodland Park Zoo member, donor, and family. And Ashley Kirby, a Woodland Park Zoo volunteer. And I apologize if I didn't get all of your, this is just what came in. If there's more, I promise I will get that out to folks to hear who the other supporters are. So if more comes in as I'm sitting here, I'll certainly share that. Public comment is closed for now. So I want to thank everyone for not only being here on September 10th, but being here today and working closely with staff and council members for these amendments that I think are going to make it a much better agreement. So with that, we're going to move to items of business. Clerk, can you please read item number 1 into the record?
Agenda item 1, Council Bill 120164, an ordinance relating to Seattle Parks and Recreation, authorizing the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation to enter into an agreement with the Woodland Park Zoological Society for operation and management of the Woodland Park Zoo, for a briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Thank you, Jody. So we have item 1 read into the record. So I'd like to invite our presenters to the Zoom table. So I'd like you to state your name for the record, and then I'm going to do a quick little overview, and then we'll start. So go ahead and start with, I guess we're going to start with Brian Goodnight. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Juarez. Council members, for the record, Brian Goodnight with Council Central Staff.
Jesus Aguirre with Seattle Parks and Recreation.
Alejandro Grajal, President and CEO of Woodland Park Zoo.
Thank you. I apologize for the confusion. Usually I say what the lineup is. I failed to do that, so there we go. Brian is going to walk us through, and you know we have 15 amendments, and he is going to walk us through the presentation, and then, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we will go to the amendments, and you will introduce and explain the amendments to us, and then we'll hand it over to me for who the sponsors are, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, well, then it's all you, Mr. Goodnight.
Okay, thank you very much. So as the title said, just to clarify, so Council Bill 120164 would authorize the Superintendent of Seattle Parks and Recreation to enter into a new agreement with the Woodland Park Zoological Society for the operation and management of Woodland Park Zoo. The current operation and management agreement was approved by the Council in December 2001, and it took effect in March of 2002. That agreement is scheduled to expire at the end of February next year. Since my remarks at the top will be brief here, because we're going to turn it over to the Zoo and Parks to have a few comments as well, but I do want to mention that there's a Central Staff memo that was distributed on November 23rd that provides additional background information and comparisons between the current and the proposed agreements. Also, one quick note on terminology. The Woodland Park Zoological Society is referred to with the acronym WPZS in most of the written materials, including today's presentation that you'll see in a few minutes. But to avoid having to say that cumbersome acronym, I'll primarily refer to them as the Society in my remarks.
Thank Thank you, Brad. Before you go any further, I should say this really quickly. I want to thank Parks and Recs for their staff, Donnie Grabowski and Anna Hurst, for the summary and fiscal note, and thank you for the numerous memos and briefings that you have given us, updating us along this process with the memos and the charts and the tables. So thank you. I'll let you go ahead from there. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I was just going to start by defining what the area and the facilities are that are controlled by the current and the proposed agreements, since it is the same in both of them. So the zoo land that we all think of is the 92 acres located between North 50th Street and North 59th Street, between Finney Avenue North and Aurora Avenue North. The area also includes the Woodland Park Rose Garden and 2 neighborhood parks that are primarily used for park recreation and open space purposes. In addition, the agreements authorize the Society to manage and operate a 120-acre offsite facility in Enumclaw. Currently, the offsite facility is not used for any zoo operations, but the Society expects that the property will be needed in the future for breeding and holding capacity. The Enumclaw facility, the parkland that the zoo resides upon, and all of the zoo's facilities and buildings continue to be owned by the city. Prior to the approval of the current agreement, the zoo was managed by the Parks Department and staffed but with city employees. The proposed agreement would continue the city's arrangement with the Society for the operation and management of the zoo, and as proposed, the agreement would be effective for approximately 20 years, beginning on March 1st of next year and remaining in effect until December 31st of 2041. The proposed agreement also contains an option for one 10-year extension. And since Chair Wara has already covered the timeline of how we got to this point in the committee meeting and the public hearing on September 10th, and because I'll be covering the proposed amendments in more detail in just a few moments, I think I'll stop here and I'll turn it over to the zoo and the Parks Department for their opening remarks.
Are we starting with Dr. Grohal or the superintendent?
I can start.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Juarez. Thank you for the opportunity to address this committee and for leading the process between the zoo, parks, and the council. Since our last committee meeting in September, the zoo has met individually with council members and staff like yourself and council members Strauss, Herbold, Pedersen, Morales, Mosqueda, and Lewis. I would like to thank the council for taking the time to share your concerns, and I'm also grateful to Brian Goodnight and all the staff members that have worked so closely with us to make this agreement something that we can be really proud of. I also want to thank personally Superintendent Aguirre and the Parks Department for their collaboration in a process that started in early 2019, but then we had to pause because of the pandemic. This 20-year public-private partnership between the City of Seattle and the Woodland Park Zoo has been a resounding success, and it should be a source of pride for the people of Seattle. During our individual meetings with council members, we heard from concerns about oversight related to long-range plan and admission pricing. We also heard from other council members on their thoughts about the duration of the agreement. And we spent many hours with our District 6 council member Strauss discussing public benefits and meeting with neighbors. And we want to thank all of you for improving and refining the thoughts that are brought here. Accredited zoos like Woodland Park Zoo are instrumental for the future of endangered species. And also we educate and inspire children and adults to love animals. Accredited zoos like ours are here to inspire people to take action and save animals and nature. Our attendance has grown to over 1.2 million visits per year, and in 2021, even in the middle of the pandemic, we are breaking records with over 38,000 household memberships. This is the largest membership base of any organization in the Pacific Northwest. The zoo is also the most visited nonprofit cultural attraction in the region at 1.2 million visits a year. In 2019, which was our last year of full operations before the pandemic, we welcomed over 71,000 visits by students and teachers, over 700,000 guests attended public education programs, and 2,500 participants enrolled in education classes. In addition to our education reach to the community, the zoo is a significant economic engine for the city. During the last decade, from 2009 to 2018, the revenue impact of zoo visitors in Washington state was close to $1 billion. We employ nearly 400 full-time employees, of which 40% are represented by 9 labor unions. And most importantly, we care for over 1,200 animals, which receive individually the best dedicated care and the most specialized diet and consideration that every species needs. We're rooted in science and we make data-driven decisions every day, but the reality is that our true organizational ethos is our compassion. All council members are welcome to meet me at the zoo, and I extend an invitation to each one of you to show you how we are passionate about animal care every day of the year. At the core of these conversations with many of you, the council members in this committee, is to ensure that the people of Seattle receive the public benefits that are derived from the support to the zoo. We too want to make sure that the zoo reaches all the people in Seattle, and we're very proud of the suite of public benefits that is attached to this agreement. This is a significant increase in public benefits from our past agreement, and we're very proud of these benefits, and we're proud of the accountability that this entails. We hope to be able to review these benefits with all of you later in this meeting. You will see that many of the amendments put forth by council members hold us accountable to fulfill these commitments. In some cases, we're not able to support the amendments because we think that they would harm the zoo or its operations. Regarding admission pricing, we overwhelmingly agree that we must stay affordable to our community. Let me remind you that nearly 40% of our visitors are considered middle-income households. And unlike many downtown attractions that are visited by tourists, the vast majority of our guests are local and regional residents. They are our neighbors, they are our friends, and our community. It is not in our business interest to price the zoo out of the reach of Seattle families. It will harm the business revenue that we need to earn in support to our commitment to the city. One final word about how accredited zoos are managed. All accredited zoos in the U.S. are managed by a professional leadership, even those that are owned by municipal governments or run by nonprofit entities like Woodland Park Zoo. The reason is very simple. Managing a modern accredited zoo to global standards is a complex operation with multiple critical decision points and requires professional expertise. To remain accredited and accountable, Woodland Park Zoo is managed by the team of the best professionals in the world and continues to be a global leader in innovation, education, animal care, and conservation. We have worked hard with each one of you with the Parks Department to continue this extremely successful relationship, which is presented here in this new operations and management agreement. We're truly looking forward to work another 20 years of successes in providing the people of Seattle with the most innovative, compassionate, and delightful zoo in the world for the benefit of everyone in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grahal. Superintendent Agate.
Thank you, Chair Juarez, and thanks, council members. Thanks for the opportunity to just share a few words prior to your review and consideration for the agreement this afternoon. I too want to echo some of the things that have been said already in terms of expressing appreciation both to of course, to the staff of the zoo and the Parks and Recreation staff, as well as Brian Goodnight and Council Central staff, and of course all of the council members who expressed interest in this agreement. And I also want to make sure that we highlight the support from the city attorney's office in working through some pretty complicated processes and amendments as we've gone through this. But I also want to just begin with reemphasizing something that Dr. Grahal stated a couple of times, which is really, this is truly an incredibly beneficial relationship that has been in place for over 20 years. The city has, through its longstanding relationship with the zoo, really benefited from their expertise and ability to operate and raise funds to the benefit of the zoo and of course to the benefit of the public. And our intent here is of course to renew this relationship, continue to ensure their success, and work closely with them to ensure that the zoo will continue to operate. I think that as Dr. Gahal stated, we started this conversation what feels like many years ago, but it was pre-pandemic and everything was put on hold. But as we re-engaged in these conversations, at least from the department's perspective, we were really looking to ensure both that we created an agreement that would help the zoo be successful, as well as provide the basic benefit and additional benefits to the city. And I'm happy to report that from our perspective, this is a better, more favorable agreement for the city. It's been noted a couple of times about the public benefits component of this, and I want to certainly express my appreciation to you, Chair Juarez, in terms of your support and really accountability to us on the public benefit side of things, not just with this agreement, but with all of the agreements that we bring before you. And we really believe this is a strong portfolio of public benefits that the zoo would be providing as part of this. This agreement, as you all know, also includes a long-range plan that the zoo will work through. And this long-range plan process, the zoo will, including support from the department, will develop, submit, and provide for us a plan. Then we will review it and either approve it or not, and it has various processes there where we can negotiate if there are differences in opinion here. And of course, one key difference here is that it allows both the zoo and the city to terminate the agreement if we're not able to come to terms on a long-range plan. The current agreement doesn't allow for the city to terminate if the plan was not acceptable to us. And then, of course, other things that have been put in place in terms of annual reporting requirements in this agreement are stronger. The other piece I wanted to say is that with this new agreement, we worked really hard to make sure that we withheld the authority that the city had in both the ownership and of course managing this zoo. The Zoo Society is managing on behalf of the city. We, as the department, will be administrating this agreement and evaluating the deliverables, including the annual public benefits and the long-range plan. And then, of course, as is true of everything else that we do, the superintendent, the department will bring annually and as part of the regular budget cycle to the council any appropriation requests as dictated through the agreement. So ultimately, the council already has final authority in terms of these funding approvals. Also just want to talk a little bit about this long-range plan. I know there's been some concern about the control resting with the superintendent, with the city, and I think it's important, and certainly as Dr. Gahal mentioned, zoos are complex, complicated scientific institutions that are in every instance that I'm aware of, at least accredited zoos, they are managed by partner organizations, and that's the case here. There aren't any that I'm aware of where the city council actually does any management or overview or specifically approval of plans of the zoo, including our neighbors here in Tacoma and others. So we're confident that the current arrangements between the city through the Department of Parks and Recreation and the zoo will achieve everything we'd like in terms of the accountability there. And then just to wrap up, I know that we too have been working closely since that September 10th hearing, responding to council member requests, meeting with community members. My team and I have met directly with some of the community members who testified today, and have working very closely with the zoo and your staffs to try to look at the topics that have been brought up and really continue to focus on the creating an agreement that again will be best for the city, and that it will allow the zoo to continue to be successful and thrive, and allow us as a department to continue to hold it accountable towards the deliverables listed in here. So I'll stop there and just share that I look forward to the process today, and again want to thank the team, and I do want to highlight my team in particular, Donnie Grabowski and Paul Hoff, who are here to help answer questions later if we need it. But really, they've been doing an incredible job interfacing with the zoo and the council on this process. So, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I apologize. I was remiss in not introducing former King County Council member Larry Phillips, who also sits on the board of the Woodland Park Zoo and has been a phenomenal mentor to me about the zoo and his district and some of his expertise. Councilmember Phillips, is there anything you want to share before we launch into this?
Thank you, Council Member. I very much appreciate the chance to be here and be with you today. I think both Dr. Grajal and Jesus did a wonderful job of sort of introducing the aspects of this agreement and its support for it. And I thought the public testimony in support of the agreement was quite remarkable. So I'm happy to be available for questions, but I think their comments were a great introduction for today's proceedings. Thank you.
I just want to thank you again because you are retired, and I want to thank you for the time you took to meet with me and walk me through some of the history and discuss some of the amendments. And I appreciate that type of mentorship. So thank you, sir. All right. So with that, now that I thank everybody, Brian, you want to bring us to where we got to go with the presentation, and then we'll start with the amendments.
Yes, please. Thank you. Let me go ahead and pull up the presentation and make sure that you all can see that before I continue. Chair Juarez, are you able to see that presentation? Okay.
I was on mute. Sorry. Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. As you all know, and has been said, things have been moving quite quickly with regard to this amendment and possible, or with this agreement and with possible amendments. So I'll do my best to summarize it and walk through. So there are 15 proposed amendments that council members have chosen to move forward to today's meeting. 10 of those amendments do not conflict with other amendments, and the committee can choose to approve all, none, or any combination of those amendments. These amendments will be walked through one by one. 5 of the amendments, however, do conflict with at least one other amendment. So after going through the non-conflicting amendments, we'll get to the items that have conflicts. And we've structured it so that conflicting amendments are shown together on one slide, and then the committee can, at most, only choose to approve one of those amendments. Additionally, yesterday morning, I sent out a memo, which is also posted to the agenda, that summarizes the proposed amendments and includes a few tables that you may find helpful for organizational purposes during the discussion. That memo also contains the actual proposed amendments as attachments. But as you've heard, the Zoo and the Parks Department have been in contact with many, if not all, of the councilmember offices since seeing the draft amendments. And as a product of that work and the coordination, 3 of the amendments have changed since the central staff memo was distributed. So these revised versions were distributed directly by councilmember offices to the committee members yesterday afternoon, as well as this morning. And my understanding is that they'll be posted to the agenda following the meeting for reference purposes. So in the slide presentation, the slides will indicate the 3 items that have revised versions with a red version number. So that will indicate that the amendments have changed and that a new version is the likely one to be moved for consideration. And Chair Juarez, that's all I have for the overview. And if you'd like, I'll continue on to amendment number 1.
Yes, let's do it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so amendment number 1 is sponsored by Chair Juarez and is one of the amendments that has a new version since yesterday morning. So I'll be describing version 2 as shown on the slide. So the amendment would insert a new section 31.9 into the agreement to clarify that nothing in the agreement creates a legally recognizable partnership, joint venture, or relationship of employment or agency between the city and the society. The current agreement with the society contains a similar provision. The amendment would also correct an error in the council bill where there is a reference to an attachment A, which should in fact be a reference to attachment 1. So that's just simply a typo that's being corrected. And that is my summary, Councilmember Morris.
Thank you. So not a lot there. You've pretty much covered it all. This is basically a technical, not much more to add. So with that, I am going to go ahead, since this is my amendment, that I move to amend Council Bill 120164 by substituting Amendment 1, Version 2 for Version 1.
Second.
Thank you. Great. It's been moved and seconded for Version 2 for Version 1. Got the second, moved and seconded. I'm the sponsor. Are there any final comments, concerns, questions, discussion? Not seeing any. Will the clerk please call the roll on the substitution?
Herbold.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Aye.
Sawant.
Who was adopted?
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Juarez.
Aye.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, so the motion carries. And so I say, is this the substitute Version 2 is adopted? Madam
Yes.
Clerk? Okay.
Yes, version 2 has been adopted of Amendment 1. Amendment 1, version 2 has been adopted.
Great. And I think that's it, correct?
Yes, we can move on to the next amendments.
All right, that motion carries. It's moved on, and we'll go on to amendment number 2. And I have some comments before we actually start to, because Councilmember Strauss, who I invited to our committee, who is not a member but can join, has amendments number 2 to 5, and then I believe later on he has amendment 13. So I'm going to, on his behalf, move these amendments for him, starting with amendment number 2. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I would move them each individually and vote on them individually rather than all in one group.
Correct. Okay, so with that, Brian, you want to go ahead and present?
Thank you very much. So Amendment 2, as you mentioned, is authored by Councilmember Strauss and relates to the composition of the Society's Board of Directors. The amendment would require the Society's board to recruit at least 2 members who reside in 2 of the following neighborhoods: Fremont, Green Lake, Finney Ridge, and Wallingford. The board would also be required to recruit 2 members who are members of historically underserved communities or that reside in neighborhoods with a high percentage of residents living below the poverty line. And that concludes my remarks.
All right. So with that, do I have...
Chair.
Need a second.
Chair Juarez, yes, I would, for Dan, I would ask that you move that amendment, get a second, and then Councilmember Strauss could speak to it.
Okay, so I will move it. Okay.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. And Councilmember Strauss, this is your amendment. Can you speak to it today?
Yes, thank you, Chair Juarez, and thank you to everyone presenting today and to the community members that I worked with to address some of their concerns. While I heard in public comment today that my amendment misses the boat in the eyes of some members of the community, I will say that the difference there is whether the community is choosing these board members or whether the board, the zoo board, is choosing these members. My apologies to the community members that don't feel that I've met the spirit of your request. We did work with the zoo and others throughout the city to bring this amendment forward so that there is a minimum, not a ceiling, a minimum of board members recruited from the neighborhoods adjacent to the zoo and called out, and those neighborhoods are called out by name. And the importance of also balancing that with a minimum, again, a ceiling, or a floor, not a ceiling. This is a regional destination, and we need to make sure that we are keeping in mind the needs of people from throughout King County, throughout the region, who also visit this zoo, which is why we want to have board members from parts of our community that are residing below the poverty line. So this is a good amendment, in my opinion, that is a good compromise between all parties and requires the zoo board to recruit 2 members from the neighborhood, Finney, Fremont, Green Lake, and Wallingford, and 2 members from historically underserved communities throughout the region. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss. Are there any additional comments on Councilmember Strauss's amendment number 2? Councilmember Herbold.
Thanks. Just a question. I should know the answer to this, but I am going to show my lack of knowledge in asking the question. Do board appointments come to the council for confirmation?
Yes.
They do?
That was my understanding. No?
No.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I should let Councilmember Strauss speak to that. I thought you were talking about the park board, but you're talking about the community board.
I'm talking about the zoo board.
The zoo board.
Yeah.
Councilmember Strauss?
I'd have to defer to the zoo. I don't believe that the zoo board members come to the city council for approval, but
the zoo board is a non-for-profit board, and as such is selected by the vote of the board, and is their board members that are designated to the mayor's office, to Parks Department, to the council, and to King County. those members are selected and named by themselves. So in the future, these community member of the board will be designated to their neighbors or the neighborhoods where they belong to. So these would be permanent positions on the board that are assigned to those neighborhoods. But to answer your question, Councilmember Herbold, no, the board members are not voted by the City Council.
Thank you so much. Appreciate having that information.
And thank you for that, clearing that up, Councilor Herbert. I apologize for speaking too soon. I misheard your question. Are there any additional comments regarding amendment number 2? All right. Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll for adoption of amendment number 2?
Herbold. Mosqueda.
Aye.
Sawat.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
Aye.
5 in favor, none opposed.
The motion carries and amendment 2 is adopted. Let's go to amendment number 3. Brian.
Thank you. So amendment number 3 is also authored by Councilmember Strauss. This amendment would modify section 16.1 of the proposed agreement to require additional information to be provided in the annual report, such as the Society's efforts to conserve species and natural habitats, address climate change, and promote public engagement in conservation actions. The amendment would also modify Appendix A of the proposed agreement, which relates to public benefits requirements, to add a section related to conservation and committing the Society to using not less than 3% of gross revenue annually for programs and projects related to species and habitat conservation. And lastly, the amendment would add a recital addressing the zoo's commitment to investing in utility analysis infrastructure and other systems that will be necessary to achieve metric-based goals. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you. So with that, again, since Councilmember Strauss is not a member, I will do it for him. I move to amend Council Bill 120146 as presented on amendment number 3 on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded that the bill will be amended as presented on amendment 3. Councilmember Strauss, can you please speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Chair Juarez. And confirming, Brian, when you said utility usage and improvements, that's talking about the conservation of electricity, water, and using organic materials in the grounds maintenance. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's also just, providing infrastructure so the zoo can actually measure their conservation activities. So it's infrastructure they would need in order to actually see their progress over time.
Great, thank you. And this amendment also came to me from a D6 resident that I met with during office hours. And thank you to the zoo for your work on this. This is a two-pronged amendment. One is external or conservation external to the land that the zoo sits on. And then the second prong is internal conservation to the how the zoo operates. So externally, and maybe if Alejandro, if you want to speak to this, Alejandro just does amazing work with conservation throughout the world. And so having the zoo provide a public benefit of battling the climate crisis and species extinction throughout the world is something that we should be doing through conservation here. The second is reducing the amount of water and electricity that is consumed and ensuring that the grounds maintenance is done so in a way that it is in keeping with the original native species and organic materials. And so this is, we are trying to bring this towards being a public benefit. I'm not sure that this is a clear public benefit. Nonetheless, it is important that there is a metric in here or a feature in this agreement that ensures conservation is occurring externally from the zoo and internally as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss. Dr. Grahal, was there anything you wanted to add? I know that Councilmember Strauss referred to you. If you don't, that's fine as well.
That is safe. I don't need to add anything. Thank you, Councilmember Strauss.
Any other discussion? All right, since there are no other discussions or additional comments on amendment number 3, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of amendment number 3?
Herbold.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Aye.
Sawat.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
Aye.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Motion carries and amendment 3 is adopted. So let's go to amendment number 4.
Point of information, Chair.
Yes.
Is it possible for me to address this motion, this amendment before it is brought forward to us? Or does it need to be moved for me to address it?
I have to move it. You can't do it. I don't know. I'll defer to the clerk, but we're on amendment number 4 now.
Yes.
So can you pull that up? Why is that we should have amendment 4 on the screen?
If Councilmember Strauss would like to address it before you move it, that's fine. We'll need to remember to go back and move it if it's indeed coming forward.
Okay, so let's do that. Go ahead, Councilmember Strauss, and then Jody, remind me to say something.
I'll try.
All right, go ahead, Councilmember Strauss.
Thanks. And so this amendment number 4 does not reflect what I had originally put forward. Brian, I think that my original amendment was to revert to the original language in the agreement.
Councilmember Strauss, that is exactly what this does.
Okay.
Would you like me to provide just my 3-sentence summary? Is that helpful? Great. Okay, yeah. Thanks. So it does, this amendment number 4, relates to naming rights. So the current agreement that the city has requires any name changes of the facility to go through the Parks Board of Commissioners and also to the City Council for approval. The proposed agreement requires just the written approval of the superintendent. And so this amendment would essentially revert back to the language of the current agreement and would require formal action by what's now known as the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners, and then approval by the City Council as well for any proposed name changes.
Thank you, Brian. My confusion here is require City Council and Parks Board approval. Is the difference?
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, that's just my shorthand in the title of this one. My apologies.
Thank you. And the reason that so when I brought this amendment forward, there were a lot of conversations we were having. This also was brought forward by the community, and the Parks Department has been doing a fair amount of education with me, explaining the current process for renaming or naming a parks facility. It is I have come to the understanding, it took some work, but I have come to this understanding that the current policy process for naming or renaming a parks facility is more robust than what is contained within this original agreement, requiring both the City Council and the Parks Board to approve of a name change is more cumbersome and creates less good outcomes. And the reason I say this is we had the experience with electric bikes on the Burke-Gilman Trail. This was a 5-year plus endeavor to allow electric bikes on the Burke-Gilman Trail because, again, it required both City Council and Parks Board approval. So at this point, Councilmember Chair Juarez, I would say on this record, I would not put this amendment forward because I do believe that the parks policy of having a City Council, somebody from City Council, having somebody from the community to sit on that proactive name changing committee to then come to the superintendent's desk is going to not only create more robust outcomes, it provides the oversight that we need as City Council. And quite frankly, Chair Juarez, you and I both know that if we're having trouble with the Parks Department, the best thing to do is call and have a conversation. And so I would kindly request that this amendment be removed.
Okay, and I actually agree. And I just, because we have combined and we now have the Board of Parks, and we did pass your amendment for more community neighborhood involvement and some of the other changes, I do agree with you, Councilmember Strauss. So Madam Clerk, can we just, how do we do this? Do we, if we're in court,
you just move on to the next, we'll just move on to the next amendment.
Okay, great. So 4 is gone. Let's move on to amendment number 5, which is also yours, Mr. Strauss. So
I have an active district.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and move it, and then I will let you speak to it. I move to amend Council Bill 120146 as presented on Amendment 5 on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Strauss, you want to go ahead and speak to your amendment, amendment number 5.
Thank you, Chair Juarez, and thank you, committee members, for letting me speak so much on a committee I'm not a member of. This was also a District 6 request that came to me in office hours, and it's requiring the community participation for the long-range plan creation process. Again, this is a proactive way that both the community and staff from council can engage in the long-range planning, rather than having just simply it come to the city council for a vote once the deal is fully baked. By having this advanced proactive ability to engage in the long-range plan, I believe will create longer lasting and more robust outcomes than just asking for our stamp at the end of the day.
Councilmember Strauss, are you finished? Because I kind of jumped the gun on something, so I want to make sure, and I'll give you another chance to wrap up. I needed to have Brian walk us through amendment number 5, so I apologize. Brian, you want to go ahead and explain to us in the viewing public this amendment and what it does?
Sure, thank you. It will be brief. So the amendment would modify Exhibit 4 of the proposed agreement, and Exhibit 4 is the one that lays out guiding principles for the development of the new long-range plan, to require the development of a community participation plan. And then, as Councilmember Strauss was saying, it would allow the chair of the relevant council committee to identify staff and neighborhood residents to participate in that community participation plan process.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Is there anyone else that wants to comment or ask questions of Brian regarding amendment number 5 and the community participation plan?
Chair, one clarifying question.
Yes.
And then I will have said everything that I needed to say about this amendment. Mr. Goodnight, can you confirm that this amendment also describes by name the neighborhoods in which community members would be selected from, being Finney, Green Lake, Wallingford, and Fremont? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. It's as you mentioned, it says specifically drawn from staff, and then residents of the 4 neighborhoods adjacent to the zoo, and then names those 4 neighborhoods that you mentioned.
So it provides a process for neighborhood interaction in a proactive manner in creating the long-range plan. Thank you, Chair. Those are my comments.
Right. And specifically, the community participation, accessibility, and empowerment. Thank you, Councilmember Strauss, for highlighting Fremont, Green Lake, Finney Ridge, and Wallingford to be involved in the participation process set out by the community participation plan. With that, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll of Amendment 5?
Herbold.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Aye.
Sawant.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
Yes.
5 in favor, none opposed.
The motion carries and the amendment is passed. And now we will move on to amendment number 6. And I will let Brian tee this up, and then we will pull up Councilmember Herbold.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So Amendment 6, as you mentioned, is sponsored by Councilmember Herbold, and it also relates to the long-range plan and to capital projects as well. So the amendment would modify the agreement to provide the council with approval authority over the long-range plan. It would have the society submit the proposed plan to the superintendent for preliminary approval, either in whole or in part. The superintendent would then transmit the approved portions of the plan to council for approval, rejection, or approval in part. So in essence, the amendment would allow either the superintendent or the council to disapprove of the plan, either just parts of the plan or the whole thing, but it would require both the superintendent and the council to approve of the plan. The amendment does 2 other things. It modifies section 9.3 of the agreement to specify that the superintendent may only approve capital improvements that do not appear in the long-range plan if those improvements are common repairs necessary for the operation of the zoo, but don't rise to the level of a project that should be included in a long-range plan. And then lastly, the amendment would modify section 2 of the council bill to require the superintendent to administer the agreement in consultation with the council and to communicate with the council in a timely fashion. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Brian. Councilmember Herbold, you are recognized in order to move your proposed Amendment 6.
Thank you so much. I move Amendment 6 to the long-range plan and capital project section.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. So, Councilmember Herbold, as a sponsor, can you please address this amendment?
Happy to do so, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to sponsor the amendment and to address it. Whereas the amendment discussed prior to this one, Amendment 5, also deals with the same topic, the long-range plan. This Council Member Strauss's amendment, I think very rightfully dealt with the very important issues about participation associated with the development of the long-range plan, and is representing community members in his district. This amendment is different, but it is, I think, complementary in that we're focusing on issues of retaining council oversight. I really appreciate my colleagues on the council who represent Zoo neighbors and their efforts to sponsor good amendments that are in response to issues that your constituents have raised. And this is one that is really more focused on a broader, again, principle of good governance and ensuring the council's ability to exercise its critical oversight function as it relates to the complex agreement that routinely attracts significant public comment and concerns, and which includes significant investments of public resources and relates to city-owned property. So under the proposed agreement, the zoo will submit its proposed long-range plan to the city within 5 years of signing the agreement. The long-range plan, as we know, covers substantial changes to land owned by the city, both at the zoo's Seattle location and at the additional property owned by the city in Enumclaw outside of city limits. The zoo is considering off-site animal breeding and holding capacity at the Enumclaw location. The long-range plan will cover the intent to move into the use of that area, that land. The long-range plan also includes plans for changes that touch on animal welfare, including changes to the animal habitat and exhibits, and finally structural changes to buildings and areas. So since the term of the proposed agreement thus far is 20 years, we've seen over the life of the current agreement that public sentiment in the state of research regarding zoos has changed significantly. It's reasonable to think that this will continue. So a touch point at 5 years on major changes is prudent. I really appreciate everybody's efforts to sort of think about the potential unintended consequences of this amendment and working to address them by permitting the items to come forward that don't rise to the occasion of or rise to the need that they have to be approved, and such as some of the construction minor construction repairs that were mentioned by Brian. Just want to sum up that requiring council approval of the long-range plan, we're building in that touch point where the public will have the opportunity to raise concerns and the council will have an opportunity to exercise that reasonable oversight of a significant and changes to the zoo that may have impact to its operations, animals, or financial health over the course of the agreement. Without this, the only mechanism for ongoing council oversight is through our annual budget cycle when we consider appropriations for the zoo. And that is not the most effective or efficient method of dealing with planning, oversight, and land use issues. And so I hope to gain a majority of my committee colleagues' support in this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Herbold. I just would add, I had a chance to read the changes, and I think, and I agree with you, and some of the changes that we've already made are amendments that we have adopted on more ongoing council oversight in the long-term planning, and also clarification of the superintendent's responsibilities in the time, and also requiring them that we communicate with council in a timely fashion. So I thank you for that. Is there any other questions, concerns, anything we want to ask Councilmember Herbold or Brian before I move to a vote? Oh, did you have your hand up? Councilor Mosqueda? Yes, you do.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I just want to make sure I'm clear, Madam Chair, you are feeling like the amendments to Amendment 6, the version in front of us, meet some of the issues that you've addressed. I also wanted to just double check with the zoo as well, that some of those concerns potentially had been addressed. I just want to make sure this is has been workshopped, and it sounds like it has, but do you mind if I ask members of the zoo for feedback on Amendment 6? Is that appropriate?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Go, girl.
That is the extent of my question. Is Amendment number 6 something that is workable with our partners from the zoo? And Councilmember Herbold, if you have other context as well for conversations you've had, I'd, of course, want to hear that as well.
Dr. Grahal?
So we have declined support for this amendment because literally it just changes a number of issues that have been already addressed in the previous amendment in a proactive way of the council being engaged in the discussion of the proactive engagement in the community participation plan. This amendment adds an additional layer of revisions and changes that can potentially complicate the long-range plan. The city and the council already have the final word on approval by the appropriation cycle that they have every year, and also by the termination language that exists in many parts of the agreement. The additional discussion about the long-range plan discussion really is adding conflict to us in terms of driving capital improvements. And just to put it in perspective also, the capital improvements to the zoo have been largely paid by the nonprofit society that operates the zoo on behalf of the city. Most of the capital improvements, with the exception of the major maintenance, are approved from its own fundraising prowess. So in a sense, the implementation of the long-range plan that has happened over the last 20 years, and likely the implementation of the long-range plan that will happen over the next 20 years, is contributed by the society on behalf of the city. And those buildings and improvements that are brought to the park are owned by the city themselves too. So those are our arguments on that amendment.
Dr. Grahal, thank you. And I'm glad that you brought that out, Councilor Mosqueda, because I was just down looking at my notes on what I understand what the zoo and parks were agreeing upon, and I want to give the superintendent an opportunity to respond as well.
Thank you for that. And I also agree with Dr. Grahal. We don't support this amendment. I think it really is a pretty robust process within the agreement, the way it's set up. It gives us an opportunity to work closely with the zoo, and with the additional engagement opportunities from community members, I think we will be able to provide, it provides a good process. I think the other piece is this is an agreement directly between the Department of Parks and Recreation with the zoo. I think we have many other contracts across the system, including large ones like one of the witnesses talked about outdoor sprawl. They also have a large operation in one of our facilities under contract, and this would, I think, also create some challenging precedent for us to bring any strategic plans or long-range plans from any of our partners and contractors to the council. And I do want to reiterate that again, that the council has the authority, not just with our regular budgeting process, but also with our capital budget to approve our anything we do, as well as in its role as the Metropolitan Park District Governing Board, in as much as some of these aspects are funded through the Park District.
Well, let me pose a question to both of you, Dr. Grahal and Superintendent. And I spoke a little bit too soon because I was looking down at my other sheet of paper, which I had confused with another amendment. Not that I don't think your ideas are good, Councilmember Herbold. What is our response? That is it fair to say that amendment number 6 perhaps is redundant or not needed because we have all those other measures within the 70-page contract that would address this, that you feel is sufficient? Is that fair to say?
I would say we are already, I mean, the zoo from our point of view, we have the review of the long range plan with a very defined and strong community participation plan that is defined in amendment number 5. We also have the approval by the Parks and Recreation Department and the Park Governing Board. And we also have the additional review of all the environmental laws and regulations that exist with the City of Seattle. The long-range plan makes commitments to community workforce agreement with the unions, to green sustainability, to the conservation of water and electricity. And in a sense, the plan has, in our view, enough point of participation and proactive engagement in a way that the process will be work from the base into a product that everybody can live with and everybody can move on. So in a sense that we believe that between Amendment 5 and the existing language in the agreement, we have enough strength in the community participation and the process for a successful long-range plan that can be approved by the community and by the city.
Can I also add, Chair Juarez, that another piece here is that we included in the existing proposed agreement is that the Department of Parks and Recreation will be very much involved in that process of developing. So it isn't just that we're going to be waiting for a plan to be submitted to us. We actually will have representatives on this group that will be developing this plan. And so all of the expertise that our team brings, whether it's on the capital project side, on the understanding of zoning and all of the other potential issues that could be impacted by a long-range plan by the zoo, we will be very much engaged in that and would certainly work with the zoo to ensure that they're headed in the right direction and wouldn't do anything that would run afoul of existing law, code, etc.
So I just want to clear something up. I know that in 2021 that the Metropolitan Park District or the Seattle Park District, we are now funding the annual operations and support and routine maintenance. Is that included in the long-term plan?
I think it depends, and I'll defer to Dr. Gahal here. I think the long-range plan is sort of the long-term vision for the zoo that would likely include some greater significant capital projects. Again, I don't know because the plan hasn't been done. In terms of our commitment is the ongoing operations and support there that would in as much as that's part of their plan, that would continue as well.
But I think and Councilmember Herbal can correct me if I'm wrong, and I went back and looked at the 2019 when we did the fund source from MPD to REAP money for certain functions and capital projects and minor functions and long range planning and policy. So I guess if I can in a shorthand way say then, it's fair to say that Seattle City Council will be involved through different mechanisms, and certainly the Seattle Park and Rec and certainly the Board of Parks involved in the long range planning, that it doesn't just get dropped on us, correct?
That's correct from my
okay. Councilmember Herbal, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, Madam Chair, your clarification, but it doesn't even come to us, right, under the current scheme. And I think the fact that we are making a commitment for $250 million of support on a 92-acre public asset that is owned by the city, I can't fathom why we would not want to maintain council oversight of the long-range plan. Participation in the development of the plan on behalf of individuals that we select is not oversight. That is participation. It is useful. It is great that we are creating a structure that will include participation of individuals that we identify and individuals on representing council, but that is not oversight. Oversight is the plan coming to us and our approval of the plan. And the idea that we would not do that because there's a budget process. Again, I don't understand that, because why would we want to subject our budget process to being derailed by folks who have concerns around the proposal for funding the zoo, as we are committing to do, because issues that are in the long-range plan are not being addressed. I feel like in an effort to streamline the decision-making, the zoo and the superintendent are not considering the consequences of potentially not having this plan come to us. And you think this process has been a headache. Boy, if we are stuck in budget with a bunch of folks who feel that we're not adequately exercising oversight of the long-range plan and they're asking us not to provide funding, that is not a situation that any of us, supporters of the zoo, amongst us, want to see us in come budget process.
Thank you, Councilmember Herbold. So, seeing no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and go for a vote. Clerk, will you please call the roll on adoption number 6 that was proposed by Councilmember Herbold?
Herbold?
Yes.
Mosqueda?
No.
Sawant?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Chair Juarez?
No.
3 in favor, 2 opposed.
So the motion passes, correct?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. So the motion carries and Amendment 6 is adopted, and we will move on to Amendment number 7. I apologize for that confusion too. I was looking down at my wrong notes, so I apologize, Councilmember Herbold. All right, we have before us Amendment number 7. Brian, you want to go ahead and tee us up?
Yes, thank you very much. So Amendment 7 is sponsored by Councilmember Sawant and relates to the provision of public benefits. The amendment would modify Section 11.1 of the proposed agreement to require that the value of public benefits provided by the Society shall escalate each year according to the increase in the Consumer Price Index, consistent with the escalation that is specified in the proposed agreement for the city's support payments. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Brian. Councilmember Sawant, you're recognized to move your proposed amendment.
Thank you. I hope you're all able to hear me. I move Amendment 7 to the proposed bill.
Second.
It's been moved. It's been moved and seconded. And Councilmember Sawant, do you want to go ahead and speak to it?
Thank you. This amendment would require the zoo to increase the public benefits agreed to in the contract with inflation. The contract automatically increases the city's funding for the zoo with inflation. This is the commitment that is being made in the contract for the next 20 to 30 years. And so it just seems to make sense to me that the public benefits like free low-income tickets, which the city is effectively funding, should increase by the same proportion. If this is a 20-year contract, then that is then extended for an additional 10 years. That is 30 years of inflation, which is, if you look at the cumulative effect, will be dramatic. The value of $100 30 years ago, $100 30 years ago is over $270 today, which is nearly triple. If the city's funding for the zoo triples over the next 30 years, then so should the subsidy for free tickets and other related public benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. Are there any other additional comments regarding Amendment number 7? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of Amendment number 7?
Herbold?
Yes.
Mosqueda?
Aye.
Sawant?
Yes.
Peterson?
Abstain.
Chair Juarez?
Yes.
4 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstained.
Motion carries. Amendment 7 is adopted. Let's move on to Amendment number 8. Brian, I understand that this is Councilmember Mosqueda's, but I'll let you speak to it, and then I will have Councilmember Mosqueda discuss it. Nikki.
Okay, thank you very much. So amendment number 8 is sponsored by Councilmember Mosqueda, and this is one of the ones that has a new version since the version that was distributed in yesterday's staff memo. So as shown on the slide, the version that I'll be describing is version number 5. So this amendment would add a new section 11.3.6 to the proposed agreement that would require the society, at its earliest opportunity, to cause the entity operating or managing the principal food and beverage operation at the zoo to enter into a labor peace agreement. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Brian. And Councilmember Mosqueda, you're recognized to speak to your amendment.
Thank you, colleagues, and thanks, Brian, for recognizing that we are on version 5 of amendment number 8. I want to thank Aaron House in my office, along with Nagin and the team at Councilmember Juarez's office, along with our friends at Unite Here. Unite Here Local 8 members have had the opportunity to talk with us about including labor peace provision in this agreement, and happy that that was brought to our attention. Colleagues, the City of Seattle frequently includes various forms of labor harmony and peace agreement language when they have city resources or ability to promote peace, including several major contracts, such as our waterfront agreement and the latest iteration of the FEP levy. This amendment in front of us, version 5 of Amendment 8, would require the Woodland Park Zoo to cause any entity operating or managing food and beverage concessions at the zoo to enter into a labor peace agreement at the earliest opportunity. We understand that the zoo is midway through its contract with the current food and beverage operator and will have the opportunity to require labor peace when that contract is up. I am also very supportive of working with the zoo and the food and beverage operator, which is Levy Restaurants, to see whether or not there is an opportunity to enter into such peace agreement sooner than the contract renewal, and look forward to further conversations to see if that can be accomplished outside of this amendment. Version 5 of this amendment responds to the chair's feedback. Thank you again, Councilmember Juarez. Thank you for your ideas on how to refine the language, as well as requests from the zoo and from our parks partners on the line here today. Thanks again to Aaron House, to Councilmember Juarez's team, and Unite Here Local 8, the Zoo and Parks team on the line here, for your work to create an amendment that I'm hopeful we can all be supportive of. Thankful for that collaboration. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Mosqueda. Is there anyone else that would like to address Councilmember Mosqueda's amendment number 8, substituted, version 5?
Chair Juarez, I apologize if Councilmember Mosqueda moved that. I missed it. Could we get that amendment 8, version 5 moved and seconded?
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. Council colleagues, I move to consider amendment 8, version 5.
Second. All right, so it's been moved and seconded, and the sponsor has discussed it. And as of this point, I do not see any other questions or concerns, so I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on the adoption of Amendment 8, version 5.
Herbold?
Yes.
Mosqueda?
Aye.
Sawant?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Chair Juarez?
Aye.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Motion passes, and the amendment is added. Is that the right word? Added? Sorry about that. I'm getting my terms mixed up. All right, so we are moving on to amendment number 9. This regards records. And Brian, when you're done talking, I have a few things that I want to say before I pass it off to Councilmember Sawant. So why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. So amendment number 9 is sponsored by Councilmember Sawant, and it relates to the definition of zoo animal records. The amendment would modify the definition to include all records pertaining to zoo animals, rather than only those records which are related to the veterinary treatment of the zoo animals. And that concludes my summary.
Great. Before Councilmember Sawant, before I recognize you to your proposed amendment, I want to just share where I'm headed. I'm not inclined to support this, and I'll add a little bit more, but I do want to hear what you have to say in regards to your amendment, and then I will probably follow up with a few more comments. So with that, Councilmember Sawant, you're recognized in order to move your proposed amendment number 9.
Thank you. I move amendment number 9 to the bill relating to public records requirements.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and Councilmember Sawant, you're recognized to address your amendment.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Peterson, for the second. This amendment adjusts the definition of what zoo records are considered public records. Council members know that many constituents care deeply about the animals at the zoo and have in the past been extremely frustrated by the difficulties that they have had in getting records from the zoo. There were even lawsuits over what counted as a public record. I cannot think of any good reason really for the zoo to refuse to release any records about the zoo animals, and restricting animal records subject to public disclosure to veterinary records, in my mind, serves no purpose. And it's something that my staff and I have really thought about, talked to a lot of constituents about, and it just seems like the most straightforward thing to do, honestly. The simplest solution being to just make any records related to the zoo animals public. I have heard the concern that increasing the number of records that are considered public records could increase the number of records that there could be future lawsuits over the release of. But again, it sort of points to the same point about, well, if the Woodland Park Zoo released the records on request, then I don't see how legal liability could become a problem. I mean, if the institution complied with the request, I don't see why it should be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. In fact, I will withhold my comments now. Thank you. I appreciate that. Actually fills in some blanks that I had. Is there anything from my colleagues before I make any statements? All right, not seeing anything from my colleagues. Councilmember Sawant, thank you for the amendment, and I'm familiar with the lawsuit that some folks brought against the zoo regarding public records. I had an opportunity to look at that. Unfortunately, today I cannot support your amendment on records that is expanding the definition of zoo animal records to include all records pertaining to all zoo animals. I guess for me, on a practical purpose, the zoo does not have the staff or a PDR office the way the city council has, or the legislative, the executive, the government side has, or resources to support every single request. And there are a lot of requests, and that is my number one concern. Number two, besides not having the extra staff and time, I believe it is still a transparent system if the records are indeed reasonable in relationship to the zoo animals and not anything else. Some of the issues, and I actually talked to some of the constituents and some of the subject matter experts and the zoo folks, and what they were concerned about is that this is overly defines and invites wide interpretation that could harm the day-to-day operations of the zoo's primary responsibilities, that is running a zoo. That board meetings are open to the public, as are their agendas and their notes. Also that zoo staff are accessible, and now we've just passed some more amendments to expand community participation, so there is even more transparency. And one of the things that I did, and also vet records are already available and accessible to the public. And also I learned today that finances are publicly presented in IRS 990 annual filings. So for me, I think there is enough transparency for any community member, if indeed they have a reasonable request to the Woodland Park Zoo regarding any animal issue or zoo records. And so for that reason, more of a practical reason, I will be voting no on this. With that, Madam Clerk, can we call the roll?
Herbold,
No.
Mosqueda,
No.
Sawant,
Yes.
Peterson,
No.
Chair Juarez,
No.
1 in favor, 4 opposed.
So the amendment fails. It's not adopted, and we will move on to amendment number 10, which is animal collection, correct? All right. Brian, can you tee us up on this?
Yes, thank you. So Amendment 10 is sponsored by Councilmember Sawant and relates to the zoo animal collection. The proposed agreement, as currently written in Section 12.3, requires the Society to comply with the requirements of all applicable federal, state, and local laws, regulations, and policies. It also requires the Society to comply with the guidelines and the policies of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which is commonly known as the AZA. So this amendment would modify that section to also require the Society to comply with any ordinances, resolutions, mayoral executive orders, and or other policies established by the city affecting the collection, breeding, acquisition, sale, or other disposition of zoo animals. It would also clarify that if there is a conflict between the guidelines and policies of the AZA and the governmental laws and policies, that the governmental laws and policies shall take precedence. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you. Councilmember Sawant, you are recognized in order to move your proposed amendment number 10.
Thank you. I move amendment number 10 related to the disposition of zoo animals.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And Councilmember Sawant, you want to go ahead and speak to your amendment?
Thank you. In 2015, hundreds or even thousands of people in Seattle reached out to the city council because they were extremely concerned about the welfare of the 3 elephants at the time at the Woodland Park Zoo. And these community members had attempted to raise their concerns with the zoo administration without success, and then appealed to the democratically elected body of the city council for help. These constituents were absolutely correct about the health of the elephants that has been confirmed through public reports, because the zoos are just too small for elephants. My office prepared legislation at the time to require the zoo to transfer the elephants to a sanctuary that agreed to accept them in support of the constituents, but the majority of the council at that time did not agree to support it. Ultimately, there was sufficient public pressure to compel the Woodland Park Zoo to transfer the elephants, but rather than to the sanctuary, they were transferred to another zoo in Oklahoma City, and all of that was too late, too little, too late anyway, and one of the elephants died shortly after. I believe I'm the only council member from that time still in office. However, that experience was convincing to me that our constituents should have an avenue for some form of democratic influence over the zoo on this question of disposition of animals if it is needed. I would not expect that the council or the Parks Department would get involved in day-to-day operations of the zoo. In fact, the 2015 incident is the only time in the last 8 years that I've been in office when constituents have demanded council take action on animal welfare at the zoo. But that was an extreme question. It was an unusual thing, but when that does happen, and it was gravely important, as we saw from the outcomes. And when that happens, our constituents should be able to reach out to an elected official with the power to act, which is what this amendment would allow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sawant. Councilor Herbold.
Thank you. So, I know there's been a lot of concern among advocates that in the past, former council members were unaware that they had the authority to pass legislation regarding disposition of animals, and we heard some public comment about that today. But that was just simply, as I understand it, not accurate of what the council's authority was in that instance. Since that time, there's been, as Councilmember Sawant mentions, there's been a lot of turnover on the council, and she is the only council member here from that time. But my research into what did happen in 2015 has helped me get a greater understanding to this issue, and appreciate the fact that the advocates have raised the issue. Section 12.3 of the proposed agreement requires that the zoo comply with all local laws regarding animal disposition. This means that the council could, in the future, consider passing different animal disposition policies that would apply to, for instance, zoo animals and other operators of animal attractions. Further, the council committee's approval of the long-range plan amendment gives us another appropriate opportunity to exercise oversight on plans for animal habitat and welfare. With the language that's included, I'm comfortable that the proposed agreement preserves sufficient oversight that is consistent with the city's role as zoo owner, not zoo operator. And I really appreciate the hard work that the advocates have done to raise this issue of our authority related to laws and regulations regarding animal disposition and treatment. So don't believe that this amendment is necessary to meet the proponent's goals, given my understanding of the existing language, as well as the language that has recently in committee been agreed to for the long-range plan amendment. Do understand that there are concerns with the language. Where I'm at is not so much that I have concerns, it's more that I feel like what we've included is sufficient to meet the goals. And if there are concerns that I don't understand, I'm more comfortable sticking with the language that we have before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Herbold. Is there anyone that would like to share before I go ahead and state my position? All right, not seeing none. Again, Councilmember Sawant, I really appreciate the work you've done, and I know that you were here in 2015, but I'd like to say that a lot has changed since 2015. I can't support this amendment on animal collection, mainly almost on the same grounds as what I shared earlier. Not just a practicality, but I don't think that city policy can preempt federal, state, regional, or zoo accreditation authority, that we could supplant our own opinions because we lack that subject matter expertise. We don't run zoos. We actually have zoos that do that. But more importantly, when I sat down and met with the zoo leadership and some folks from the parks, my understanding from the zoo, and I would like Dr. Grahal to weigh in if he can, is that this would directly risk accreditation, which is a core requirement of this agreement. And I'll let Dr. Grahal speak to Woodland Park Zoo, their accreditation, their veterinarians, and the work and the people that they've hired in conservation to make this a better zoo, and that the zoo already complies with government laws and regulations, which is extensive and protective, and protects not only the animals or the zoo operations and the zoo animals. So one of us, I think all of you received a one-page memo from the zoo that was circulated to you to kind of outline some of the issues and concerns. But I guess for me, this is really a deal breaker. It is not practical, and this goes to the court, and I don't want to risk the Woodland Park Zoo losing accreditation and their status as one of the best zoos in the country. And I know that that's open to, discussion or disagreement, but from where I stand in chairing this committee and the work that I've done, I will be voting no on this. But Dr. Grahal, would you please respond to either anything I said, Councilmember Herbold, or Councilmember Sawant?
So I think Councilmember Herbold really summarized it really well, is that we are in compliance with government laws and regulations. There are enough oversight and control over the control of the collection, including the long-range plan. And the main thing that we have against this amendment is the idea that regulations will take precedence over our accreditation. Just to remind you, accreditation is the core element, one of the core elements of this agreement. So if future regulations contradict or jeopardize our accreditation, the zoo would need to terminate the agreement as specified. So in a sense, I think that it would be up to the council to provide any rules, regulations, or decrees that they may feel like they need to. But if those regulations contradict our accreditation policies, then the agreement will probably miss on one of the core elements of it, which is the accreditation for the zoo. So that's our position.
Thank you, Dr. Grahal. Is there anyone else before we go to a vote? Councilmember Sawant.
Just briefly, I've not heard of this whole thing of the risk of losing accreditation. I don't agree that the zoo would be at the risk of losing accreditation. In fact, the zoo used to be actually run by the city itself, so I'm not sure that applies. Obviously I would not support any kind of move that would have that risk, but in my understanding, this amendment does not have that risk. And just on the whole question of whether that Councilmember Herbold brought up, that does the council have that authority anyway? I feel like a lot of that is a little bit of a gray area. I mean, all the constituents we've spoken to who are, longstanding animal rights activists, these are people who live in the city and who've paid attention to the zoo for years. They felt that this amendment was necessary, so my office brought it forward, but looks like there is some difference of opinion on that, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. I appreciate that you listened to the animal advocates. And so with that, I'm going to move forward with the vote. Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of Amendment 10?
Herbold.
No.
Mosqueda.
No.
Sawant.
Yes.
Peterson.
Abstain.
Chair Juarez.
No.
1 in favor, 3 opposed, 1 abstained.
All right, so the motion fails. And Brian, let's continue on to amendment number 11. And Brian, can you tee us up? Oh yeah, for 11 and 12, because these are a little bit conflicting. So I'm going to let you speak to both of them at the same time. Correct? Okay, that's what we're going to do. And then we'll come back. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Chair Juarez. As you just mentioned, so we've come now to the first set of amendments that are competing with each other. So as you can see, both amendments 11 and 12 relate to the agreement term, and the committee can, at most, approve only one of these amendments. So I'll just briefly describe both of them. So Amendment 11, sponsored by Councilmember Peterson, would shorten the initial term of the agreement from 20 years to 10 years. The amendment would leave in place the option for one 10-year extension. So in total, the amendment would shorten the possible agreement term from 30 years down to 20 years. So that's Amendment 11. And then Amendment 12, which is sponsored by Councilmember Sawant, would not adjust the initial term, but instead would modify the extension option from allowing one 10-year extension to allowing for multiple extensions, as long as those extensions still do not exceed the total of 10 years. So Councilmember Sawant's amendment would still have a possible term of 30 years in total. And finally, the Councilmember Sawant's Amendment 12 would also make the superintendent's approval of any extensions subject to the City Council's approval. And that concludes my summary.
Great. So since we have amendments 11 and 12 and they are conflicting, what I'm going to do is have each sponsor speak to their amendment, and then we'll go back and then they can move and then we will vote. Does that sound correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that sounds like the best action to take right now.
Okay, so with that, Councilmember Peterson, you can speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Chair Juarez. Colleagues, I support many of the benefits that our zoo provides and thank the zoo and their team for their hard work. My family has enjoyed the zoo over the years and appreciate all the thought that's gone into this proposal. My amendment is being brought forward in the interest that some believe we could spend even more time analyzing the proposed agreement, and with a recognition that the future is uncertain as society openly debates the relative benefits and goals of urban zoos over time, and locking ourselves into a 30-year agreement, which is 20 years plus a 10-year extension, might not be prudent. A lot can change in a decade with technology, education, conservation, our measurement of public benefits, our relationship with the environment. It's important to note that my amendment still retains the 10-year extension and that it's a relatively easy extension because it's approved just by the superintendent and the zoo. In other words, my amendment is really adjusting the proposal from a total of 30 years to a total of 20 years. Given the numerous changes we're making today to the zoo's original proposal, I believe shortening the length of the agreement could also be considered a win-win. It enables everyone to revisit it in 10 to 20 years instead of 20 to 30 years. So I hope my colleagues will support this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we entertain questions now, or do I just let the sponsors each speak to their amendment and then go back for the questions before we vote?
It's up to you. I would suggest having both sponsors present their amendments, and then we'll open it up and possibly make the motion to move and vote. But right now, I think it's best to have both sponsors speak to their amendments.
Thank you, Jody. So, Councilmember Sawant, can you please speak to your amendment number 12?
Thank you, Chair Juarez. So just partly to echo what Councilmember Peterson was saying, this is an extremely long contract, 20 or 30 years from now, who knows what ordinary people in Seattle will want to happen with the Woodland Park Zoo, who knows who will be running the zoo, who knows who will be on the council and running the Parks Department. Given that so many ordinary people do care about the details of this contract. I think this amendment to shorten the initial contract to be 10 to 20 years instead of longer period makes sense to me. As mentioned, Amendment 12 from my office addresses the same issue a little differently. The amendment from my office would require council approval for an extension beyond 20 years, but I support either approach. So I will be voting yes on this amendment from Councilmember Peterson, and if this amendment passes, then I won't be moving amendment number 12. But if this amendment does not pass, then I will move amendment number 12 for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. So what we'll do then is we will go back to amendment number 11, and I will have Councilman Peterson formally move his amendment, and then we'll open it for discussion, and then we'll all have some comments on that and a vote. So Councilmember Peterson.
I have a process question.
Yes.
Just to clarify, because these are mutually exclusive amendments, it is possible we will not get to Amendment 12. Is that correct? If Amendment 11 passes, then Amendment 12 just goes away or is tabled.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if Amendment 11 fails, if both of them fail, then we just go with the proposed agreement and then the 20-year term, which is in the contract, which we've all seen since September 10th, and we'll go back to that discussion.
Because the setup here with these mutually exclusive amendments creates a situation where we could vote. We could have a turning back, not being able, going beyond what do they call it, the last return, not being able to go back. Basically, is what I'm concerned about. I did want to understand a little bit more about the intent of Amendment 12, if I could, Madam Chair. Could I ask one question? Oh,
yes.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead. Before you do that, Councilor Herman, let me just say something real quick. Just because I want to, as you would say, loop back, put a pin in it quickly. There's a reason why Brian put 11 and 12 together in the order that he did them. There is some logic here, and why he put 13, 14, and 15 together, because the same issue will come up again, but there's a reason why he did that, because I had the same confusion that you did, that, you know, it didn't seem like that would be fair. So I understand what you were getting at there, but go ahead.
Thank you. So I understand the intent, the policy intent of 11 is to take a 20-year term, what is now proposed to be a 20-year term, make it a 10-year term so that there's an opportunity to sort of check in. Is that more or less correct, Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
With 12, I don't really understand what the policy objective is that's being served, to still have a 20-year agreement, but then after the 20 years is up, as I understand it, if there are extensions, they would have to come to council for approval of the extensions. I'm not sure I understand the policy objective being served by 12, and so I don't want to be in a situation where I vote for 11 because I think it's better, but without fully understanding what 12 is trying to get at.
Chair Warris, should I?
Yes, and I also like, Brian, can you respond as well, because you had given us some additional notes. So can we have Councilmember Sawant respond, and then Brian, please respond to Councilmember Herbold's question?
Actually, Brian, why don't you go ahead what you want to say, and then I'll come after you.
Thank you, council members. I guess I don't, I think I should probably let the council members want address the substance of why it does it. I'm happy to answer any questions about what it does. I think Councilmember Herbold summarized it correctly. So Amendment 12, the full 20-year term would happen. And then my assumption is that if there is some desire to have a little bit more time on the end of it, but not only, triggering a 10-year extension, that's the intent. But so I'm happy to talk about any specifics, but Councilmember Sawant should probably speak to her intent.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, and I agree with what Brian just said. Basically, I guess the main difference between 11 and 12 is 11, sort of just limits the duration for which the contract applies, and then whether the contract is renewal, both sides sort of get a chance to review it, so to say. But in the case of number 12, it is specifically bringing up the question of democratic oversight democratic oversight from the city council on the question of going over 20 years. It's not meant to be just an administrative rubber stamp. I mean, hopefully that clarifies what the intent of number 12 was. But we do think that there is in terms of effectively what the outcome could be, there is a real overlap between number 11 and number 12. And so that's why I said that my office is fine with either approach, and that if 11 passes, and I intend to support 11, and if 11 passes, I will withdraw number 12.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. Are you okay, Councilmember Herbold? Okay. So if there's any more that I'd like to share my opinion, and thank you, Councilmember Peterson. I know you and I have gone back and forth about this, but I will not be supporting either 11 or 12, but mainly 11, and I'll tell you why. So in my term, I've been the chair of the zoo, the waterfront, Seattle Center, and everything in between, and parks. I was looking at other contracts that we have with the city, and not the type of ones that are similar to the zoo. And so the Seattle Aquarium contract is 20 years, and we've had many amendments and addendums to them. The Seattle Asian Art Museum is 55 years, Mohai is 30. And I know that the last two are not in the care of animals, but the aquarium certainly is. So these are other local agreements. Now, the other issue that I have is that what I've learned from the zoo and from Seattle Parks is that 20 years allows for the appropriate planning for long-term projects, acquisition of animals, hiring employees, putting up the different programs that they put together. And so they need that 20-year span period. And speaking as a former lawyer that used to draft these things, or going back to, let me go back to something else. So I had Nagin go look at other zoos and what was the industry standard. And the industry standard is 20, 30, 40 years. So ours, relatively speaking, 20 years I think is fair. We've done that way before for caring for animals. The city council has always retained the power and authority to amend this contract or add addendums to this contract. And in fact, we did that in 2004. We did that in 2013. When we passed the Metropolitan Park District in 2014, we actually went back to 2019 and switched out money from MPD to use REIT money. In 2021, Metropolitan Park District, that's the Seattle City Council, funded operations and support and routine maintenance. So I share some of these examples or instances where we were able in a timely manner to address critical matters or new issues that came up that we could not have anticipated. And the point of a contract, of course, of the meeting of the minds and having some terms and agreements, you also build in that flexibility that you're going to have things that are going to change. I like what Councilmember Herbold said, but I'll take a little bit exception about, since I'm a lawyer, is that when you have a 10-year and then another 10-year, it's not necessarily a check-in. And that is the danger there for me anyway. And I think what I was hearing from the zoo and parks in regards to planning. So for me, again, it's a more of a practical approach that we always retain the power and authority to amend, to have addendums, to hear more community concerns and still retain control of those 92 acres, still see the oversight of not the oversight, but be involved with the labor of the over 400 employees at the zoo and all the things that come with it. So it isn't just about the animals. It's about the parking, it's about the tourists, it's about the local people that come here. In what I understand from Dr. Grahal about how they put together on what programming comes up. And so for us, I know that I am not a subject matter in managing a zoo. So with that, I will be voting no on 11 and 12. So with that, is there anything else before we move forward? Is there anything from Dr. Grahal? No? You good? Okay. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to move to the vote. So will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of amendment number 11?
I'm so sorry, Chair Juarez. Did we get a motion to move the amendment 11? We did. I missed that one again.
Sorry. Councilor Peterson, did you not move it?
I would like to, colleagues, thank you, Chair Juarez. Colleagues, I'd like to move Amendment 11 for your consideration.
Second. With that, I apologize. Any other questions, concerns? I'm not seeing any. Let's move forward. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Herbold,
No.
Mosqueda,
No.
Sawant,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
No.
2 in favor, 3 opposed.
So with that, the motion fails, and we will move on to amendment number 12. Councilmember Sawant, you are recognized in order to move your amendment.
I move amendment number 12.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Councilmember Sawant, can you fill us in on what you're doing here?
I feel like I have described number 12 already, so.
I know you have. I'm sorry.
I don't have anything new to add.
I'm just kind of looking at the script. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay.
I want to make sure that if there was something I said that you want to respond to. Okay. So with that, Councilmember Swan, are you okay with us moving forward? We're
Yes.
okay? Oh, no, Councilmember Herbal has her hand up.
Thanks. I just wanted to say, Councilmember Juarez, you did such a good job of explaining the concern with the 10-year term instead of the 20-year term that it made me prefer this version, which now gives certainty to the zoo for the full 10 years instead of having a check-in that's more than a check-in, as you say, Madam Chair, midway. And so it allows the zoo to have the full 20-year agreement, but requires that extensions, whether or not they're 10-year extensions or multiple extensions that total 10 years, that they would come back to council for their approval.
Yeah, and I can actually say, and thank you, Councilor Herbal, for experience, how many times that this committee has amended the aquarium contract, and then some. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to turn into that wonky lawyer, and I know I'll bore you all to death. Okay, so with that, are there any other comments? No, I see none. So will the clerk please call the roll on adoption amendment number 12?
Herbold,
Yes.
Mosqueda,
No.
Sawant,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
No.
3 in favor, 2 opposed.
So it passes. Fails, I'm sorry. Woo. The amendment fails.
It passes.
Excuse
No, it
me, I
passes.
believe it's passed. 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I got to quit listening to Nagin. Okay, the amendment passes, so we will move on to amendment number 13. We have the same issue here that we have with the other ones. We have amendments 13, 14, and 15 that Brian is going to tee us up for, and then each council member can discuss their amendment, and then we'll go back and have them each move to move it onto the calendar to vote. Brian?
Okay, thank you, Chair Juarez. As you said, so this is the final slide of amendments, and it's also then the second set of amendments that conflict with each other or are mutually exclusive. So amendments 13, 14, and 15 all relate to admissions pricing and public benefits. I just want to also note that for amendment 13, I'll be describing version 5, so that's indicated on the slide in red, and that has been updated since the version that was distributed in the central staff memo yesterday. And also, although these are conflicting amendments, the public benefit portion of the amendments is identical, so I'm going to cover that part first. So all 3 of the amendments would add 3 new components to the public access category of the annual public benefits table contained in Appendix A to the proposed agreement. So they would add family discount days, which are 50% off admission prices on select days, participation in the Seattle Public Library's Museum Pass program, and a commitment to promote their programs that provide free and discounted admissions. The estimated value of these additional services in 2022 is approximately $745,000. So that part of the amendments are all identical. Now, all 3 of the amendments also provide additional control over the society's ability to set admissions prices, but they all do this in slightly different ways. So I'll just walk through them one by one. So Amendment 13, version 5, which is authored by Councilmember Strauss, would require the superintendent's annual approval for any increases in the society's general admissions pricing structure. Amendment 14, which is sponsored by Councilmember Sawant, states that admission prices should not generally increase by more than the increase in the Consumer Price Index, which I'll refer to as the CPI, and increases above the CPI increase would require prior City Council approval. And then Amendment 15, which is sponsored by Councilmember Herbold, contains the same language as Amendment 14 referencing CPI, but rather than requiring City Council approval for increases above that amount, it would require Superintendent approval. So it's helpful, just one more time. So Amendment 13 is Superintendent approval for all increases. Amendment 14 requires City Council approval for increases above the CPI, and Amendment 15 requires the Superintendent's approval above the CPI. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Brian. So again, as Councilmember Strauss is an invited guest and a non-voting member, I will move this for him. I move to amend Council Bill 120164 by substituting version, oh boy, see, this is Amendment 13, version 5, or version 4?
Version 5, please.
Okay, is there a second? All right. Councilmember Strauss, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Chair Juarez. I will just check with Mr. Goodnight. Mr. Goodnight, would you like to? Oh, but you already presented about all of them. Yes, thank you. I will move ahead. Lots going on here at your committee, Councilmember Juarez. So I just want to thank both Councilmember Sawant and Herbold for within their amendments, including language that I'd worked out with the zoo and the Parks Department about family discount days, about the public library museum pass, and thank you to the zoo for also being willing to engage with the King County libraries for your pass as well, and then requiring the promotion of the free and discounted admission programs. Those are public benefits that are going to have a really great benefit for many in our community. My amendment, as compared to our colleagues, requires an annual approval by the superintendent for any increases in daily general admission pricing structures. It also sets the timetable up for the zoo to be able to create their pricing at the beginning of December, and then for the superintendent to approve that in late December, so that there is a full period of a year where that plan is put in place and the zoo is able to create admission pricing that works for both clients and the zoo, and has the oversight of the superintendent of the Parks Department. It is simple, straightforward, creates accountability, and ensures that the zoo is able to operate in a dynamic fashion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Strauss. So we have Amendment 14, and that is Councilmember Sawant. Councilmember Sawant, can you please share some background on your Amendment 14?
Thank you. This amendment number 14, would require City Council approval if zoo ticket prices are increased beyond the rate of inflation. The city is committing to provide millions of dollars in support for the zoo each year for the next decade, 2 decades, even more. And those public funds should be used, at least in part, to make tickets affordable. If the zoo intends to increase prices, the rate of increase in the prices faster than the inflation rate, then that effectively means pricing ordinary people out. These are going to be families with children that need that and will be wanting to access the zoo for their families, and at the very least, that should require the approval of democratically elected officials if the prices are going to increase beyond the rate of inflation.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawant. And Councilmember Herbold, you are the proponent of Amendment 15. Do you want to go ahead and share the background on that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So as it relates specifically to different versions of these amendments, I just want to flag that my amendment actually provides, if taken at face value, it provides additional flexibility to the zoo, because my amendment would only require superintendent approval over 100% CPI. Councilmember Strauss's amendment, whereas very helpful, constrains the the zoo to a greater sense in that any increases must receive approval from the superintendent. And so my question is, given that I understand that the zoo is having a preference for Councilmember Strauss's version of the amendment, I would be interested to understand, again, given that my amendment gives the zoo the flexibility to increase prices annually without any necessary superintendent approval to 100% CPI, I'd be interested in hearing directly from the zoo so I can understand a little bit more about why the zoo was not interested in that flexibility.
Thank you, Councilmember Herbold, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I actually was going to ask what the zoo's position. I know what the zoo's position was, but wanted to know a little bit more why they would not have been in favor of amendments 14 or 15.
So thank you for the chance to address this. The main issue here is the ability of the zoo to manage its earned revenue to cover the additional cost of running the zoo. Just to put it in perspective, the city support provides about 18 cents for every dollar of operations that the zoo provides. So in that regard, it is imperative for us that we have an earned revenue, earned business revenue that supports our commitment to the city in a way that we run our business and run our philanthropy. So in that regard, we traditionally send our prices to the superintendent for approval. It's been the same thing for the last 20 years, and we continue to provide that as our annual plan to the superintendent. So in a sense that, and then one of the reasons to cover the concerns of Councilmember Herbold and Councilmember Strauss on affordability to middle-income families, we provided additional public benefits that are added in all three amendments. So we're very proud of adding that up. In a sense, all we're asking here is for the flexibility to maintain a pricing structure that allows us to run the business in the most efficient operation, but also making a significant commitment to make sure that we don't ruin our business. Just as I said in my opening remarks, 40% of our clients, our zoo guests, are from middle-income households. It would be business suicide for us to actually raise our prices to a way that people cannot afford coming to the zoo, and it will make a very significant decline in our earned revenue. So in that regard, Amendment 13, different than perhaps Amendment 15, is that it doesn't put a CPI ceiling above the approval. It just basically says we're going to maintain a flexibility. Amendment 15 is basically putting that CPI requirement in that, which is a ceiling for additional approval. So in that regard, our preferred amendment is Amendment 13 because it allows the zoo to maintain running fruitful business operation with our revenue and provide us with the flexibility to have dynamic conditions of winter versus summers and weekdays versus weekdays, weekends, and parking limitations and guest admissions and park capacity and all the things that happen in a highly seasonal, very heavily attended operation. So that's why we support all the discount family days. We support the library passes. We support the accessibility, free tickets, admission tickets, and reduced costs, because we believe in the affordability to the zoo. It's essential to us. But at the same time, what I'm asking is allowing the zoo to run an efficient business that allows us to cover 80 cents out of every dollar of operations that the zoo provides. Thank you.
Great. Is there any other questions or concerns? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Amendment 13. And I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Herbold. I didn't see you. I apologize. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to close up by saying I am going to withdraw Amendment 15 do want to state for the record, I actually did not understand the answer for why it is the zoo would want to have to get approval from the superintendent for a dime increase in its admissions. For instance, for example, because Amendment 3, you have to get the approval annually for any size increase. Mine only addresses large increases. So I don't it has not been explained to me in a way that I can understand why you would want that more onerous requirement. But I do want to just state for the record, I'll withdraw the amendment, and I am concerned about what I am hearing is that you don't want any reference to CPI in the agreement at all, and that really makes me very, very nervous. I know that there's interest in increasing ticket prices to be at the level of other comparable facilities, and so the concern I have is whereas the inclusion of the 100% CPI was intended to give you more flexibility, my concern is that the fact that you don't even want it mentioned in there at all might be sort of foreshadowing of where we may be seeing these ticket prices go in the future, although I understand that the ability of middle-class families to afford tickets is your bread and butter. I'm hearing that loud and clear, but I am anticipating that we're going to see some increases that might make the range of affordability more like the aquariums, which is $71 to $99 for a family of four, whereas the zoos is an affordable $57 for a family of four. Thank you.
Dr. Grahal, do you want to respond to that? I think I heard that a little bit differently, your answer, than perhaps I was going to say Dr. Herbal, but Councilmember Herbal. I thought that you explained quite well why the CPI, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means that it would hamper some of the flexibility needed. And you rattled off a bunch of reasons why, because you're not just saying it's more nuanced than that. You're not just tying it to like market conditions, which is CPI. So it is a bit more nuanced. Is there anything that you want to respond to that so we can share that with the rest of our colleagues so we can move on from this?
Well, so unlike the aquarium or perhaps other downtown facilities, as I said, our core visitation comes from neighbors and residents of the city. We cannot have tourist prices here because these are prices that are paid by neighbors and families here in Seattle. So that is important for us. And it would be business suicide for us to outprice ourselves from our main client, which is the middle-income families in the region. In addition to that, we also are offering an unusual roster of public benefits that are incomparable to many other agreements. We're providing middle-income family discounts, 50% discounts. We're providing hundreds of thousands, over $1 million in free tickets and reduced tickets for families in economic need. We're providing library passes. We're providing flexibility, and we believe that it allows us then the flexibility to really control the way we manage our prices so that we provide both on one end the public benefits that low-income families and middle-income families require, and at the same time we're trying to balance the operating of a very sophisticated business operation that provides 80 cents for every 20 cents that the city invests in running the zoo. So this is a very good business deal for the people of Seattle, and at the same time we're providing all those free, reduced, and discounted tickets for lower and middle-income families in Seattle. And that's a balance that we're trying to do here, is running a business that actually supports our commitment to be open and accessible to everybody in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, Councilmember Strauss, is there anything you want to add before we go to a vote?
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing to add at this time.
Okay, so there are no more comments on the substitution. So will the clerk please call the roll on the substitution? That is Amendment 13.
Herbold. Councilmember Herbold, thank you. Mosqueda,
Aye.
Sawant,
Abstain.
Peterson,
Yes.
Chair Juarez,
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 abstain.
So it passes. Correct?
Yes, it does. Let's see, it's
Adopted.
Amendment 13, version 5.
Thank you, is adopted. And we will move on to amendment. Well, now this is where you're gonna have to help me out, clerk, since now 13 has passed.
I don't believe you're able to vote on 14. Was that a conflicting amendment with 13?
Yes, and 15 was withdrawn by Councilmember Herbold.
So then we would not vote on 14.
Okay, thank you. Well, I have this one.
Councilmember Juarez, may I point of order?
Yes.
Or point of personal privilege. With all of my amendments brought forward already, I will be excusing myself and thank you for the invitation. I just wanted to take this moment to thank Dr. Grahal, Superintendent Aguirre. Oh, this is the end, so I'm going to just thank everyone here, Councilmember Phillips, Mr. Goodnight, and all of the committee members. Thank you, Councilmember Juarez, for the invitation, and McGee for clerking today.
Councilmember Strauss, I don't think you get to go. After
I don't get to go?
Yeah, after 6 amendments. I should make
I have
you
a committee.
Okay.
I have a committee meeting.
Thank you very much. All right. Woo. Okay, so we got that done. This is the final bill. So, is there anything anyone else wants to say before we move? I move and we go to a vote. Councilmember Mosqueda.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo Councilmember Herbold's line of questioning and the concerns that she noted while she withdrew amendment number 15. I think the concerns that she raised are good ones, especially as we want to be good stewards of making sure that the public asset of the zoo is accessible, and the CPI issue does raise some questions. And I understand that the answer that was given twice about wanting to be accessible and affordable as well, but perhaps we can do additional work with you all to continue to keep an eye on what considerations are going into that price increase that has been afforded for the zoo in Amendment 13, version 5. I see Councilmember Phillips nodding your head, so thank you for the future work on that effort to daylight some of those discussions and future decisions. And again, to Councilmember Herbold for really raising those concerns. I also wanted to note, Councilmember Juarez, you know, one of my favorite pastimes is thanking people. So I wanted to say, I forgot to mention my chief of staff, Sejal Parikh, in the work that she did on Amendment 8 as well, along with Aaron House on the work that we did to include that labor peace language and some great research that was done on other examples that Councilmember Juarez, you had led the effort on, for example, at the waterfront. So happy to have had the opportunity to work with our team and wanted to just acknowledge that work. Councilmember Juarez, it's a long day, great meeting. Thank you for helping us. I will stop talking so we can vote.
That's okay. All right, everybody. So we will, I'm going to go to our last act and we'll go to the other 2 items. I move the committee recommend Council Bill 120164 as amended.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any other final comments? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll to recommend City Council pass 120164 as amended?
Herbold.
Yes.
Mosqueda.
Yes.
Sawant.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Chair Juarez.
Yes.
5 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you. The motion passes and the committee will recommend to full City Council that they pass Council Bill 120164 as amended. And this item will be before Seattle City Council Monday, December 13th. Thank you. So with that, clerk, we're going to go to item number 2. Could you read that into the record?
Agenda item 2, resolution 32034, a resolution relating to Seattle Parks and Recreation, authorizing the superintendent of Parks and Recreation to act as authorized representative agent on behalf of the city of Seattle and to legally bind the City of Seattle with respect to certain projects for which the city seeks grant funding assistance managed through the State Recreation and Conservation Office. For briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Before I move on, Councilmember Sawant, did you want to speak now, or do you want to?
Yes, so my apologies, Chair Juarez. I'm having to leave the committee, so I just wanted to give my apologies before I left. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for and thank you for your amendments, Councilmember Sawant. I appreciate it. All right. So with that, we have number 2 read into the record. Can our presenters please reintroduce themselves? I see we got some new faces here, and then we will discuss the resolution 32034.
Thank you, Chair Juarez. I'll start. Jesus Aguirre, Superintendent, Seattle Parks and Recreation.
And I'm Robert Warner. I'm the Grants and Contracts Coordinator with Seattle Parks.
Tracy Ratzliff, Council Central Staff.
All right. So who's kicking us off on this presentation?
I will kick us off, and with tremendous gratitude to Tracy for running the slideshow here. And then, of course, Robert, who is the expert here, will chime in if I forget something or say something inaccurate. But really, we appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about our State Recreation and Conservation Office Land and Water Conservation Fund applications. And we'll go through, there's a lot of words there, but I'll go through and sort of explain. And as you mentioned, Councilmember Juarez, at the beginning of this overall session, this is something we do every year where we seek authority from you all to be able to submit complete our applications for these grants. So I'll go through the slides very quickly. Next slide, please.
Hold on. Come on. There we go.
Thanks so much, Tracy. So again, the RCO, the Recreation Conservation Office, is a Washington State group, and it's basically an agency that manages several grants, and they provide these grants to support outdoor recreational opportunities, including to support wildlife habitat, farmland, and salmon sport and restoration. And so the RCO runs a grant process every other year, and all of this, of course, is dependent on how much funding is allocated through the state. Now, we are here to talk specifically about a component called the Legacy Grant Program, which is implemented in partnership with the National Park Service. And as part of this grant, municipalities are eligible to apply, and these grants fund capital projects in low-income urban areas with limited access to parks and recreation resources. And these are grants that actually compete both at the state and national level and can be funded for up to $5 million. Now, the key here is that it requires a one-to-one match from the local grantee, and thus our need to come to you all for that authority. The other piece here, which is also important, is these grants create a commitment, a long-term commitment. If we receive grant funding from this source, then those properties that are supported by this funding source have to be maintained and operated for the purposes for which the funding was received in perpetuity. So, as an example, if we use this money to build a new playground, we couldn't turn around and turn that into a parking lot. And obviously that's an extreme example, but it does create restrictions that are permanent here, and we want to make sure that we're clear about that. Next slide, please. So, I think that's the right one. Sorry, there's a lot of words I can't even see them. But yeah, so this year we submitted 2 grant requests for this biennial grant cycle, and these projects are that are going to be eligible for this funding no later than March of 2022. And the way that it works, the city has to provide matching funds and has to commit to continue to operate those projects in line with the grant that was approved. And so part of our work in selecting these projects, we look at all of our capital project sort of menu, the CIP that we have, and really look at the the criteria that's laid out by the Legacy plan, which really looks at specific, as I mentioned earlier, that they're serving or areas that have limited access to parks and recreation services. And so, and for us, we look at specific RSGI prioritization as well. Next slide, please. So here's how the process works. Excuse me. Sorry. So again, the reason we appreciate the opportunity to apply for these grants is this allows us to leverage existing dollars that are allocated to grants and essentially double, if possible, the availability of funding, because these are matching funds. And again, these are competitive, public, and both state and national applicants are engaged in this process. And as we apply, so if you see on the slide, these grant applications were due in July of 2021. They will not be reviewed or recommended for funding until October of next year. But since the applications were due in July, we do have the opportunity from the RCO office to submit to them a resolution that gives us the authority to enter into these grant awards, given the specific commitments that we're making. I think it's really important to note as well, as I said, these are really powerful opportunities to leverage additional resources to support programs that are already part of our CIP. Next slide. Thank you, Tracy. This year we've selected two projects, and I'll show you. I think council members may already know where these are, but we have a map in your packet here. But essentially, we've highlighted the Beersheba Phase 2 restoration, which is really aimed at enhancing a 2.5-acre waterfront park. Looking at installing fitness zones, a walking loop, pathway and exercise equipment, some additional resilient servicing and landscaping, and some other amenities such as picnic tables, barbecues, and some bike racks. And this grant in particular also includes in-water salmon restoration elements such as aquatic vegetation and logs and other things to control sediment for the habitat for the salmon. The second project is the Garfield Superblock Grant, which is the block surrounding the Garfield Community Center just north of the high school there. And this is a full renovation project that includes all sorts of new furnishings, improved ADA access, play equipment, nature play, some modifications to a restroom facility, and covered picnic areas, etc. So it's a pretty robust project. Both of these projects actually have pretty robust community engagement, community support, and a lot of work that has been done by our community partners in bringing these projects to fruition. So we're excited to submit these as part of our application. And so the next slide gives you a little more detail, just the scale and scope of these projects. So again, the Beersheba is in Southeast Seattle. It's literally across the street from Rainier Beach High School. We're seeking to match a $472,000 allocation we have now, which would bring that total project to just under $1 million. And then the Garfield Superblock Grant is a bigger project. Our grant request there is to leverage the roughly $2 million that we have allocated and bring in an additional $2 million, which would give us a total $4.1 million project. So our total grant request for the RCO for this grant cycle is $5.1 million. And that's all we have, unless you council members have any questions, or Robert, if there's anything else you'd like to add. And I should say, council members, that truly the person behind all of this has been Robert Warner, who's on the call right now and has been stewarding this grant process very successfully. So thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Superintendent. Robert, did you want to share anything before we close this out?
I don't have anything else to share. I think that Jesus was very thorough and it really summarizes these two particular grants.
Nice picture.
Yeah. That's looking out from Seward Park.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Councilmember Juarez?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I will tell you, I just noticed this, but my background on my Zoom screen is actually Beersheba Park. I sort of switched them around, but it turns out that's just by coincidence that's Beersheba. I forget to.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Well, thanks to the community for their great work.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I do not see any other questions or concerns, so I'm going to move forward. So, I move the committee recommend council pass resolution 32034. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Any final comments? Seeing none. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Herbold,
Yes.
Mosqueda,
Oh, aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
excuse me, Chair Juarez.
Aye.
4 in favor, none opposed.
So the motion passes, and the committee will recommend to the full city council to pass resolution 32034. And again, this item will will be before Seattle City Council on Monday, December 13th. Thank you. So let's go to our last item, which I've been waiting all day for. Item number 3. Can you read that into the record?
Agenda item 3, Council Bill 120188, an ordinance creating an Indigenous Advisory Council for Tribal and Urban Indian Engagement, adding a new chapter 3.75 of the Seattle Municipal Code, and amending section 3.35.050 of the Seattle Municipal Code for briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Thank you. So can we have our presenters introduce themselves, and we'll say some words, and then we'll move to a vote. Lish?
Good afternoon. Lish Whitson, Council Central Staff.
Negin Comcar, staff to Councilmember Juarez.
Oh.
And Jessica Mernan, Department of Neighborhoods.
Well, I am really happy to see Lish, but more importantly, and you too, Negin, but Francesca, welcome. She is our person that we hired from department. She's now be in the Department of Neighborhoods and our very first Native American who will staff this phenomenal council. And Francesca did phenomenal work at the Seattle Indian Health Board on missing murdered Indigenous women and girls, and the times, and I think I saw her a couple times in DC lobbying. So thank you, Francesca. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys, and then we can say a few words. Are you going to kick us off, Lish?
I think Negin was going to kick us off.
Oh,
right?
she is. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, council member. You had proposed this idea a few years ago, and it proposed this as the first move for the Seattle City Council to increase access, increase accountability, and increase communication between our tribes, our urban Indian organizations, and local Seattle Indigenous communities. And the first effort that was sponsored by you and supported by the rest of City Council was to create a position under the Department of Neighborhoods that would staff the work of the Indigenous Advisory Council. And so in the last 2 years, what we've done are two parallel efforts, which is one, to create this staffing position, which from the help of the Seattle City Council that was funded last year. For the last several months, your office and Lish Whitson and staff from the Department of Neighborhoods have worked together to ensure that this staffing position would be adequately resourced and equipped to support a future Indigenous Advisory Council. And that was recently filled, which is now Francesca Mernan. The Indigenous Advisory Council Liaison is the official title. So that's one side of it. The second side is this ordinance, or this bill that we have before us, which is finally here to actually establish this in Seattle Municipal Code. And just to quickly highlight the process that that your office has done for the rest of your colleagues, I'll mention that we've reached out to tribes in the area, and we've worked with different community organizations. And while during this global pandemic, it's been hard, I think, for folks to create 100% time and attention on one piece of legislation, it's an ongoing work product, and it's evolved to, I think, create a great foundation to potentially expand or adjust as we move forward and continue to build partnerships. And I say that because not every entity that we've reached out to was able to have the time to respond. And so it's important that I highlight that partnerships are ongoing and trust building takes time, and we want to maintain that authenticity. So what I'll do is go ahead and give it to Lish to go through his memo, and I'm here to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Lish?
Great. I just want to say that a lot of the work for this legislation was done by Negin and Councilmember Juarez's office, and I sort of helped to finalize it, but they've done a lot of great work thinking through a lot of the issues related to Indigenous Advisory Council and how that's a unique body advising the city. So the legislation in front of you would set up an Indigenous Advisory Council to improve communications between tribes, urban Indian urban Indians and other Indigenous people, including Native Hawaiians and Alaska Natives in the city of Seattle. The whereas statements, which were developed in consultation with Native communities, highlight both the unique challenges that face Indigenous people and their resilience in the face of historic and current challenges. The goal of the council is to increase an understanding of the needs of Indigenous people and improve how the city delivers services to Indigenous people. It has 6 sections: establishing the council, describing its membership, outlining terms of service, providing for compensation of members, outlining the duties of the council, and recognizing Indigenous communities' right to their cultural property. Some of the unique duties of the council will be to advise on a tribal consultation policy to improve communication with tribal governments, to develop policies on communicating with urban Indian organizations, and advise on ways to improve services for Indigenous communities, in particular Seattle's urban Indian population. The council will have 9 members, 3 recommended by tribes and appointed by the council and mayor, 4 recommended by urban Indian organizations and appointed by the council and mayor, 1 elder appointed by the mayor, 1 youth member appointed by the council, and all of the members would be subject to appointment or final approval by the council. Each member would have a 2-year term, except for during the first year when we're trying to create staggered terms for membership. And they would be appointed for up to 4 consecutive terms. And the bill provides the opportunity for the Department of Neighborhoods to compensate members for their time and expenses. I wanted to highlight a unique aspect of this council, which is a recognition of Indigenous communities' cultural property, their unique knowledge, history, symbols, and stories that belong to Indigenous communities, and that we anticipate drawing on through the Indigenous Advisory Council. The bill provides for the council to develop a rule respecting how members can share that cultural property with the city while still holding that property in their community. And as mentioned, a permanent position to staff the council was included in DON and continues to be ongoing. And Francesca, who was hired for that position, I think is going to talk a little bit about how she envisions recruiting for the council.
Thank you, Lish. Francesca.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Nagin, and thank you, Lish, and all council members here today. My name is Francesca Renan. I'm Shawnee, an assistant of the Cherokee Nation, and I have been a member of Seattle's urban Native community for over a decade. I'm very excited about the opportunity to support our thriving Indigenous communities here in Seattle, and I think that this is an historic effort that strives to honor trust and treaty obligations to Native communities, as well as fulfill the city's commitment to advancing racial equity for all Indigenous people. So with the upcoming passage of the ordinance, we'll be doing outreach and recruitment for the inaugural 9 members of the council to be selected in early 2022. Outreach efforts will include local tribal nations, tribal organizations, urban Indian organizations, and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander serving organizations, as well as the broader Indigenous community. Interested applicants will be able to subscribe to email updates using the Indigenous Advisory Council webpage, which will soon be located on the Department of Neighborhoods website. And they will be able to find application materials, frequently asked questions, as well as my contact information. In early 2022, community members will have the option to submit their applications either online or by mail, and those will be considered for all 9 open positions through the mayoral and city council selection committees. The recommended appointments will be confirmed by city council in early 2022. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to support your efforts here to advance these obligations and to our Indigenous communities alongside the work of the Tribal Relations Division and the Office of Intergovernmental Relations. I think this will be a really powerful movement to support our Native communities here. So thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Before I say anything, and I'm going to end hopefully on a very good note where we lift our hands, is there anyone who would like to please have any comments or anything that they'd like to share before I do my closing statement, so to speak? Oh, Councilor Herbold, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Want to just express my sincere appreciation for you, Councilmember Juarez, Madam Chair, for bringing forward this legislation and for all the hard work, Nagin, I know that you have been doing, working to solicit the input of Indigenous communities here locally as well as nationally, and just really am excited about this historic, groundbreaking work to recognize what has been really an unmet need for this sort of official capacity within municipal government. So thank you so much. I do want to confirm, because Amish Longhouse is in my district, as you might imagine, I have been getting questions for the last couple months now as interest in creating this body increases, and they've been in touch with my office to ask about the council and ask when the legislation is going to be coming forward and ask how they could apply to serve or nominate members to serve. I have shared the draft legislation with them once it was referred and on the agenda. And I just want to confirm that a non-federally recognized tribe like the Duwamish would still be able to nominate their own members as delegates for positions 1 through 3. I just want to ensure that the terms tribe and tribal councils are not defined or interpreted in any way to exclude the participation of non-federally recognized tribes like the Duwamish. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has anything else they want to share? Councilmember.
I'm sorry, I was looking for confirmation of the accuracy of my statement.
The confirmation I can give you is that this committee will not be excluding. And that's why we're putting together an Indigenous Advisory Council to get it up and running and let this group with self-determination make those decisions. This isn't about who's a recognized tribe and who's not. Well aware of the issues that are going on as former legal counsel for 5 of the non-recognized, which 3 of them became recognized in the day. So I understand this issue, but I also don't want to get in the middle of it. That's why we created this. So we would have an Indigenous Advisory Council that's inclusive, that will look at these issues in an organic manner, in a kinship manner, in a relative manner, and advise us on the executive and the legislative what we need to be doing. So I don't want to like confirm or deny. I want to say it's a big tent, and I'm looking forward. That's why we hired Francesca, because she understands Indian country. I want those kind of people making decisions and being inclusive. So does that answer your question, Councilmember Herbold?
I'm just asking that one of the authority to select people is vested in Native organizations. I'm only asking about the positions that are nominated by the tribes. And I just want to know that the Duwamish tribe is one of the tribes that can put forward nominations. That's all I'm asking.
Right, and I think I answered, so that's where we're at. Councilmember Mosqueda?
Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to take a second to thank you for the work that you've done to create the Indigenous Advisory Council here. And as you noted, the importance of self-determination, direction, and control. I look forward to the increased communication and the doorways that I think this will open, hopefully the model as well for other jurisdictions as we seek to improve government-to-government relations. And congratulations as well for the work that you got in the budget. I think the 2021 budget included, the budget that this council passed included the staff position to staff the advisory council, and I'm really glad that we were able to secure that funding and ensure that the position in the budget got us to this point. That we were able to hear from Francisca, hello, and to be able to get an update on the board and this legislation, I think is a product of that good groundwork that you laid. So thanks for all of that work. And again, I do hope that this continues to be a model for other jurisdictions for improved government-to-government relations.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosqueda. Not seeing any. I'm going to take, I normally don't like to talk a whole lot, but there's a few things that I just want to share. First of all, this is a positive moment, and it is not a moment where I want to discuss inclusion, exclusion. What I want to focus on is that for the first time, this city has an Indigenous Advisory Council, similar to the city of Portland. We're one of the first cities to now have it on the legislative branch. And as you know, Councilmember Mosqueda, from your days in Olympia, and Negin knows this, from her days in Olympia, the city or the state already does that. I think Senator John McCoy started it when I was still in the governor's office. So we've been working on this for 2 years, and thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair, for funding this position, for understanding the need for it in this city that is named after, of course, Chief Sealth, and also bringing up that why we needed this. So even though I am Native and I work here, a lot of the tribes still think that I'm their legal counsel, right? I'm the go-to person, and I'm not. I want it to be the community and people who get nominated to be on this council to make those decisions and let us know what we need to be doing, not me. I'm not the arbitrator of any of that. And talking about tribal government, having the support of urban indigenous organizations, and particularly tribal leadership. All the tribes around the Salish Sea, even out to Makah and Lummi and all these other tribes, are looking at what we're doing and talking to their city governments like Bellingham, the city of Forks, and other cities, because this is important. I know we talk about Indian country, but in Indian country there really are no borders because this is indigenous land. This is not performative legislation. We're actually hiring Native people who have subject matter expertise, who are familiar and well-versed in Indian country and sovereignty, self-determination, all of those issues. And so I'm glad that I can kind of push this off to a group that is actually going to be staffed, that will come back to us and tackle issues like missing murdered Indigenous women, climate change, boarding schools, healthcare, also talking about Native American folks reclaiming Indigenous language and places. I don't want to be the arbitrator of that. I don't want to decide who gets to decide what we name a creek or a river or any area. I want this group, that's their job. And having a staffer like Francesca in Department of Neighborhoods for the first time, who's getting paid, whose their job is to sit down with this Indigenous Advisory Council, and it may grow, to tell us what we need to do. And I cannot tell you how excited and how happy I am that we actually have that staff. And I want to end on this. I've had some wonderful discussions with tribal leadership about now coming to the table and finally on the legislative side, having a voice in economic development, not a gift shop on the waterfront, but actually having a voice in economic development and revenue streams, economic engines in every district in the city. And that, to me, is a huge project, and that is something that I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get busy on. We used to have a joke as tribal lawyers where we would say our sovereignty is your sovereignty. A lot of leveraging there, a lot of work to do, and a lot of jobs to create, and a lot of opportunity. But more importantly, having this advisory council is going to actually go beyond the land acknowledgement. I mean, I appreciate that y'all do that, but the real piece of that is, are you going to give it back? Probably not. However, we can step in to work with tribal governments and indigenous urban organizations and any other group that wants to be part of this big plan to reclaim, to indigenize, and to make sure that tribal leadership, indigenous folks, are at the table making decisions about their lives. So for that, I'm very proud. I also want to say that we also want to work with, and we've done this in the past, with people, organizations like the University of Washington and our colleges. Also the Burke Museum. I've had some interesting meetings with them about repatriation of cultural goods and services and things that we want to see from this museum and University of Washington. Working with the state committee. We also work with the national committee, the national organizations. Francesca's familiar with these. I don't have to explain it to her. She knows NCAI, National Congress of American Indians, ATNA, Affiliated Tribes in Northwest, managing 50 tribes, all in the Northwest, all doing policy decisions in their cities as well. So this isn't just on the reservation. It isn't just about treaties. And that is why federal Indian law and policy is way more than just a treaty. We're so far beyond that. That's almost the talk of from like the 70s. We're way beyond that. And I think you can see that tribes have become economic engines, either the first or second employer in particular counties, all up and down these Snohomish, King, and Pierce. And so I want to leave on one other note, kind of a sad note. Negin is leaving us, and you cannot know, I don't want to get emotional, but I have not seen anyone work so hard to delve into some of the more sophisticated issues of Indian country, government to government, self-determination, the missing murdered Indigenous women, the work that she did with Deb Haaland's office and the senator's office. I have a side story how she scared Senator Kamala Harris at the time when she was a senator. Their staffers were afraid of her. The policy with the tribes, her deference to tribal leadership, elected tribal leadership, and getting that work to us in the language. Also on the boarding school issues, Negin went above and beyond, working with the national group and the local group about the resolutions that we passed. And I just want to say, you know, what we say, you know, our hands are up to you, Negin. Thank you. This is more than just you're a staffer. You really got in there and you really felt our people and what our pain was, but more importantly, you lifted us. And we will always appreciate that. And I'm going to miss you so much. And then I want to end on the note that Francesca, I ran into Esther Lucero last week, and she's still mad at me for stealing you to the city. So with that, I appreciate everyone's words. And Lish, thank you for diving into an area that I know that you didn't quite actually do, but now I think you know more. And hopefully we can get some folks on central staff where their job is to understand these issues because they're beyond nuanced. And I think this is why federal Indian law is now on the Washington State bar exam, because it's part and parcel of who we are. So it should be in government. And as Councilmember Herbert was saying, it should be part of municipal government, and it will be. And it goes well beyond people not happy about the dams, people not happy about natural resources. It also goes to economic development, healthcare, you name it. Those are the organizations we work for. And Madam Chair of Budget, thank you again for listening to me and funding those decisions that we need to take care of our relatives. Enrolled or not enrolled, recognized or not recognized. That is not my job to do that. So with that, I don't want to get too emotional. I'm gonna move this. If there's anyone has anything else they want to add.
We love you, Negin.
Goodbye, Negin. I'm gonna cry. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I move the committee recommend council pass Council Bill 120188.
Second.
Great. Got a second on that. Clerk, can you call the roll?
Herbold?
Yes.
Mosqueda? Aye. Peterson?
Yes.
Chair Juarez?
Yes.
4 in favor, none opposed.
The motion passes, and the committee will recommend this to the full city council on Monday, December 13th. And before we adjourn, again, Negin, I'm gonna love you, miss you, but you're not gonna be a stranger. Still gonna bug you for stuff. And before we adjourn, this concludes our items of business. All items passed out of this committee will be forwarded to the December 13th meeting, as I've said 4 times. This was our last committee meeting of 2021. Thank you all for staying late and working so hard. And more importantly, thank you for getting all your amendments in by November 30th. And with that, we stand adjourned. Negin's crying.